Number 1. Why defining intelligence is so difficult. We begin our journey not with an answer, but with the quiet hum of a question. What is intelligence? The word itself feels solid, familiar. We picture a mind that moves with speed and precision, solving complex equations or mastering intricate strategies in a game of chess. We think of vast libraries of knowledge stored within a single person, of brilliant deductions that unlock the secrets of the universe. And while these abilities are indeed facets of intelligence, they represent only a few threads in a vast, intricate tapestry. The true difficulty in defining intelligence is that it is like trying to describe the wind. You can see its effects, the rustling leaves, the waves on the ocean, but you can never grasp the thing itself. The moment we create a box to contain it, intelligence reveals a new dimension of itself that lies outside our definition. Consider the master carpenter, whose hands hold a wisdom that transcends words. After decades of working with wood, they understand its grain, its tension, its very character, shaping it with an intuitive grace that no manual could ever teach. Is this not a profound form of intelligence? Or think of the musician who translates the formless landscape of human emotion into a melody, creating a language that speaks directly to the soul without ever needing a single word. What of the farmer who walks their fields and simply knows what the land needs, reading the subtle cues of the soil, the sky, and the seasons? These are not mere skills, they are forms of deep embodied knowing. Historically, our attempts to define intelligence have always been a mirror, reflecting back what we, as a culture, choose to value. In an age of industry and science, we prized logic, reason, and analytical power. And so, our definition of a smart person was tailored to fit the engineer, the scientist, the academic. But for a nomadic tribe in a vast desert, intelligence would have been defined very differently. It would be the ability to read the stars for navigation, to find water from imperceptible signs, to understand the complex kinship rules that held the society together. The intelligence valued would be practical, ecological, and social. This is why even the experts remain in a state of respectful disagreement. A neuroscientist might describe intelligence as the efficiency of neural pathways, the speed of synaptic firing. A computer scientist sees it as the ability of a system to process information and achieve a specific measurable goal. A biologist views it through the lens of evolution, defining it as the ultimate art of adaptation, the capacity of a life form to solve the endless puzzle of survival. A philosopher, meanwhile, might argue that true intelligence is inseparable from consciousness, from self-awareness, and the capacity to ask why. None of these perspectives are wrong, but each is incomplete. They are like blind men describing an elephant. One feels the trunk and calls it a snake. Another feels the leg and calls it a tree. Each describes their piece of the truth without grasping the whole. So we are left with a more humble and far more beautiful understanding. Intelligence is not a single monolithic entity. It is a spectrum, a mosaic of countless capacities. It encompasses logic and reason, but also emotion, intuition, creativity, and somatic wisdom. It is not a static quality one possesses, but a dynamic process that unfolds in every moment. It is the dance of life itself, constantly learning, adapting, and responding to the universe. And yet, faced with this boundless, misty concept, the human mind did what it always does when confronted with the vast and mysterious. It tried to measure it. It sought to distill this immense ocean into a single manageable drop. This very human impulse to classify and to quantify leads us directly to the creation of a tool that would shape the 20th century and our perception of the mind itself, the intelligence quotient test. Number 2. The birth of the IQ test. Following our reflection on the vast, almost indefinable nature of intelligence, we now turn to a moment in history when humanity decided to tame it. If intelligence was a wild force of nature, The early 20th century was determined to put a saddle on it. This brings us to the birth of the intelligence quotient, or IQ test, a concept born not from a desire to celebrate the mind's diversity, but from a need for practical problem-solving. At the turn of the century in Paris, public education had become mandatory for all children. This was a noble, democratic ideal, but it created a logistical challenge. Teachers in bustling classrooms noticed that some children learned effortlessly, while others struggled profoundly. The French government, wanting to help these children rather than simply label them as failures, commissioned a psychologist named Alfred Binet to develop a tool. His mission was to identify students who needed special assistance, to create a method for diagnosing learning difficulties. Binet and his collaborator, Théodore Simon, did not believe they were measuring a fixed, inborn quantity of intelligence. On the contrary, they saw their test as a simple diagnostic tool. They developed a series of short tasks related to everyday problems, things a child should reasonably be able to do at a certain age, like following commands, copying patterns, naming objects, and putting things in order. They called this scale mental age. If a 7-year-old could pass the tests for a typical 7-year-old, their mental age was 7. If they could only pass the tests for a 5-year-old, it suggested they needed extra help. Binet's intention was humane. He wanted to use the results to create tailored educational programs, what he called mental orthopedics, to help struggling children improve. He was adamant that his scale did not represent a permanent trait. But an idea, once released into the world, takes on a life of its own. When Binet's test crossed the Atlantic to the United States, it was transformed. American psychologists, particularly Lewis Terman at Stanford University, saw it not as a diagnostic tool, but as a way to measure a single, innate, and largely unchangeable entity called general intelligence. Terman adapted the test, standardized it for an American population, and popularized the concept of the intelligence quotient, a formula proposed by German psychologist William Stern. Mental age divided by chronological age multiplied by 100. Thus, the IQ score was born. Suddenly, the vast, misty concept of intelligence was condensed into a single number. This number was seen as a powerful predictor of one's destiny. It was used to sort soldiers in World War I, to stream children into educational tracks, and, in its darkest application, it was used by the eugenics movement to justify discriminatory policies, including immigration restrictions and forced sterilization, under the misguided belief that intelligence was a fixed, heritable trait that determined a person's worth. The IQ test became a cultural phenomenon, a shorthand for smart. It seeped into our collective consciousness, creating a hierarchy of the mind, where those with high scores were seen as inherently superior. The tool that was designed to help had become a tool to label, sort, and, all too often, to limit. We moved from Binet's compassionate question, "How can we help this child learn?" to Terman's deterministic one, "How much intelligence does this person have?" This shift fundamentally changed our relationship with our own minds, teaching us to see intelligence as a possession rather than a process. But even as the IQ test dominated the landscape, it became clear how much it was missing. It could not measure creativity, common sense, emotional wisdom, or moral courage. It could not capture the intelligence of the artist, the mechanic, or the caregiver. This realization forced us to look beyond the numbers and consider a more dynamic, more fundamental form of intelligence, one that Binet himself would have recognized: the simple, powerful ability to navigate the challenges of life itself. This leads us to our next reflection: intelligence as adaptation. Number 3. Intelligence as adaptation. The invention of the IQ test gave us a number, a neat and tidy label for the human mind. But in its quest for a single, measurable score, it overlooked the very engine that drives intelligence in the first place. It ignored the messy, dynamic, and fundamental purpose of thought, which is not to score well on a test, but to survive and thrive in a constantly changing world. This brings us to a far older and more profound definition: intelligence as adaptation. Long before we had schools or psychologists, every living organism on Earth was engaged in a continuous, high-stakes intelligence test. This test had only one question: can you solve the problem of existence today so that you can exist tomorrow? The force administering this test was evolution. From this perspective, championed by thinkers from Darwin to the modern biologist, intelligence is not about abstract reasoning, but about effective response. It is the ability of an organism to adjust its behavior, its structure, or even its internal state to meet the demands of its environment. It is a dance of survival, and every living thing is a participant. Consider a simple bacterium. It has no brain, no neurons, no consciousness as we would recognize it. Yet it possesses a form of intelligence. It can sense chemicals in its environment, moving toward nutrients and away from toxins. It can alter its metabolism to make use of different food sources. When conditions become harsh, some bacteria can enter a dormant state, a spore, waiting patiently for a more favorable time. This is not conscious choice, but it is a highly effective, adaptive system for problem solving. It is intelligence in its most elemental form. As life becomes more complex, so does this adaptive intelligence. A plant rooted in place cannot flee from danger or seek out a better location. Yet it is a master of adaptation. It intelligently turns its leaves toward the sun, optimizing its ability to gather light. Its roots navigate the subterranean maze of the soil, searching for water and nutrients with remarkable precision. Some plants have developed intricate relationships with animals, evolving flowers with specific colors and scents to attract pollinators, or producing toxins to repel herbivores. This slow, deliberate, and silent negotiation with the environment is a testament to an intelligence that operates on a completely different timescale from our own. When we look at the animal kingdom, this principle becomes even more vivid. The chameleon that changes its color to blend in with its surroundings is not just performing a neat trick. It is demonstrating a sophisticated form of adaptive intelligence. The beaver that builds a dam, altering its entire ecosystem to create a safe and resource-rich home, is acting as an intelligent engineer. The migrating bird that navigates thousands of miles using the Earth's magnetic field, the position of the sun, and the patterns of the stars is tapping into a form of knowing that is deeply connected to the planet itself. Our own human intelligence, in this light, is not a departure from this natural order, but its most recent and perhaps most potent expression. Our ability to create complex tools, to use language to share knowledge across generations, and to build cooperative societies are all supreme acts of adaptation. They are what allowed a physically unassuming primate to survive and flourish in nearly every environment on Earth. But this view also comes with a humbling reminder. If intelligence is adaptation, then our modern conception of it, focused on academic achievement and abstract thought, can be dangerously narrow. We may be able to solve calculus problems, but are we adapting to the changes we are creating in our own global environment? A society that produces brilliant physicists but destroys the ecosystem upon which it depends is, by the definition of adaptation, acting profoundly unintelligently. This perspective forces us to see that true intelligence is holistic. It is about maintaining a balance with our world. And at the very core of this adaptive ability lies a fundamental mechanism, the capacity to learn from the past to predict the future. This is built on the twin pillars of memory and the brain's incredible gift for finding order in chaos. This leads us to our next reflection, the silent, powerful role of memory and pattern recognition. Number 4. Memory and pattern recognition. If intelligence is the ability to adapt, then its primary tools are the past and the future. To navigate the present moment effectively, we must draw upon our experiences and project potential outcomes. This vital process is orchestrated by two of the most fundamental, yet often overlooked pillars of cognition, memory, and pattern recognition. They are the silent architects of thought, working tirelessly beneath the surface of our awareness to build the very structure of our understanding. Memory is far more than a simple filing cabinet for facts and events. It is a living, dynamic web of connections that shapes our perception of reality. Every sight, sound, and feeling we experience is filtered through the lens of our past. When you see a dog, you don't just see a four-legged animal. You instantly access a network of associations: your childhood pet, the sound of a bark, the feeling of soft fur, a story you once read. This happens so quickly, so seamlessly, that we mistake this rich, memory-infused perception for raw reality. Without memory, every moment would be a completely new and bewildering experience. We would be unable to learn, to form relationships, or even to maintain a sense of self. The you that exists right now is a story, a continuous narrative woven from the threads of memory. But memory alone is not enough. A library of disconnected facts is useless. The true magic happens when the mind begins to connect the dots, to find the hidden rhythms and recurring shapes in the chaos of sensory input. This is the profound gift of pattern recognition. Our brains are, above all else, pattern-finding machines. From the moment we are born, we are learning to discern patterns. A baby learns to recognize the pattern of a human face, to associate the pattern of a certain tone of voice with comfort, and to link the pattern of their own cry with a response from a caregiver. This is the dawn of intelligence. As we grow, this ability becomes exponentially more sophisticated. We learn to see the patterns in language that we call grammar, the patterns in music that we call melody and rhythm, and the patterns in social interactions that we call norms and etiquette. A doctor diagnoses an illness by recognizing a pattern of symptoms. A scientist makes a discovery by noticing a pattern in the data that no one else saw. An artist creates a compelling work by manipulating patterns of color, shape, and sound. Even our most abstract thoughts are built upon this foundation. When you understand a concept, what you are really doing is grasping its underlying pattern and how it connects to other patterns you already know. Think of learning to drive a car. At first, it is a confusing flood of disconnected actions. Check the mirror, press the pedal, turn the wheel. But with practice, your brain begins to recognize the patterns. It links the sound of the engine to the need to shift gears, the sight of a red light to the feeling of pressing the brake. Eventually, these patterns become so deeply ingrained that the act of driving becomes second nature, an intuitive flow. You are no longer consciously thinking about the steps. You are simply responding to a complex, unified pattern. This process is happening constantly in every aspect of our lives. It is the quiet engine that powers our intuition, our skills, and our understanding. It allows us to walk into a new room and instantly make sense of it, to understand a sentence we have never heard before, or to feel a sense of unease without knowing exactly why. This relentless drive to find order in the world is so fundamental that we sometimes see patterns that aren't even there, a phenomenon that gives rise to superstition, conspiracy theories, and the seeing of faces in clouds. But this is just a side effect of a system that is brilliantly optimized for making sense of a complex world. This ability to store experience and use it to find meaningful order is the bedrock upon which higher forms of intelligence are built. Once the mind can recognize a pattern, it can begin to think about the pattern itself. It can name it, manipulate it, and use it as a tool to solve new and unfamiliar challenges. This leap from recognizing the concrete to manipulating the abstract is our next reflection: the power of problem-solving and abstract thought. Number 5. Problem-solving and abstract thought. Having established memory and pattern recognition as the bedrock of cognition, we now ascend to one of the most celebrated peaks of human intelligence. This is the ability to move beyond simply reacting to the world and to begin actively manipulating it, not with our hands, but within the boundless theater of the mind. This is the realm of problem-solving and abstract thought, the capacity that allows us to build bridges, write philosophies, and contemplate the stars. At its core, problem-solving is the process of navigating a gap between a current state and a desired goal. It is a journey, and intelligence is the art of drawing the map. For simple problems, this map is straightforward. If you are hungry, you find food. The pattern is simple and the solution is direct. But human intelligence shines when the path is not clear, when the solution requires us to imagine things that do not yet exist. This is where abstract thought becomes our most powerful tool. Abstraction is the ability to distill a concept down to its essential quality, to separate an idea from a specific, concrete example. We can think about justice without needing a particular court case in front of us. We can discuss gravity without having to drop an apple. We can manipulate the concept of three without needing three physical objects. This ability to work with pure ideas is the engine of innovation. Imagine our early ancestors facing a new problem: how to cross a wide river. A purely reactive intelligence might try to swim it and fail. But an intelligence capable of abstraction can begin to work on the problem internally. It can call upon the memory of a fallen log and recognize a pattern. A long, sturdy object can span a gap. Then it can abstract this idea. It doesn't have to be that specific log, it can be any log. Better yet, it can be something like a log. The mind can then simulate the future. If we place this object across the water, we can walk on it. This internal simulation, this running of mental models, is the heart of problem solving. It allows us to test possibilities, to make mistakes, and to find solutions without paying the real-world price of failure. This process is so fundamental to us that we often take it for granted. Every time you plan your day, you are engaging in abstract thought. You are manipulating concepts of time, distance, and obligation, running a mental simulation of your future actions to find the most efficient path. Every time you try to explain an idea to someone else, you are translating your internal abstract model into the shared abstract system of language. This capacity reaches its zenith in fields like mathematics, physics, and philosophy. These disciplines are almost entirely built on chains of abstract reasoning. A mathematician doesn't need a physical triangle to prove a theorem about all triangles. A physicist can predict the existence of a particle like the Higgs boson decades before it is ever detected, based purely on the logic of their abstract models. A philosopher can build an entire ethical system from foundational principles about happiness or duty. These are feats of pure mental construction, building castles of logic in the air that somehow, miraculously, describe the world we live in. However, this powerful ability is not without its limitations. An intelligence that operates purely on logic and abstraction can become detached from reality. It can create elegant theories that ignore the messy, unpredictable nature of human experience. It can devise brutally efficient solutions that lack compassion and empathy. It can solve the what and the how, but struggle with the why and the should. We have learned how to solve the problem of splitting the atom, but we are still grappling with the problem of how to live together peacefully. This reveals that the landscape of intelligence is not a single mountain peak of pure logic. There are other, equally important peaks, ones that govern our ability to navigate the complex, emotional world of human interaction. Our next reflection explores this other, vital dimension, the realm of emotional and social intelligence. Number 6. Emotional and social intelligence. For centuries, our vision of intelligence was dominated by the cold, clear light of logic and reason. We celebrated the calculating mind, the problem solver, the rational thinker. Emotion was often seen as the enemy of intelligence, a messy, irrational force that clouded judgment and led to poor decisions. But to ignore emotion is to ignore the very context in which human intelligence operates. We are not solitary computers processing data. We are deeply social creatures, navigating a world defined by relationships, feelings, and connections. This brings us to a more holistic and arguably more essential form of knowing: emotional and social intelligence. Emotional intelligence begins with a journey inward. It is, first and foremost, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions. It is a form of self-awareness that asks, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this? Is this feeling serving me? Someone with high emotional intelligence can feel the rising tide of anger and choose not to be swept away by it. They can acknowledge the presence of fear without being paralyzed by it. They can understand that their sadness is a valid response to loss and allow it to move through them without becoming a permanent state. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about listening to it. Emotions are data. They are signals from our nervous system telling us something important about our inner state and our relationship with the world. A flash of anxiety before a public speech is a signal to prepare. A feeling of contentment tells us we are in a safe and supportive environment. To be emotionally intelligent is to become a skilled interpreter of this inner language. Once we can understand our own emotions, we can begin to recognize them in others. This is the foundation of empathy, the ability to step outside of our own perspective and sense what another person might be feeling. It's the capacity to see the subtle shift in a friend's expression and know that something is wrong, to hear the tremor in a voice and understand the unspoken worry beneath the words. This empathetic connection is the glue that holds human society together. It allows for trust, cooperation, and genuine communication. This inner awareness and empathy then blossom into social intelligence. Social intelligence is emotional intelligence in action. It is the art of navigating the complex, unwritten rules of human interaction. It's knowing how to conduct a difficult conversation with grace, how to inspire a team, how to mediate a conflict, or how to simply make someone feel seen and heard. It is the intelligence of the diplomat, the therapist, the great leader, and the beloved friend. A person can have a genius-level IQ, but fail spectacularly in life if they lack social intelligence. They may be brilliant, but if they cannot communicate their ideas, collaborate with others, or build trusting relationships, their brilliance remains isolated and ineffective. Conversely, we all know people who may not be academic prodigies, but who move through the world with an effortless social grace. They build strong communities around them, they resolve disputes, and they make things happen because people trust and want to help them. This is a powerful and highly adaptive form of intelligence. It is directly tied to our evolutionary success. Humans thrived not because we were the strongest or fastest, but because we could cooperate in complex groups. And cooperation depends entirely on emotional and social intelligence. But how do we share these complex inner states? How do we build these social worlds? We do it through our most powerful and defining tool, a system of shared symbols that allows us to transmit thought from one mind to another. Our next reflection delves into this miraculous technology, the role of language in thought. Number 7. The role of language in thought. As we explore the different facets of intelligence, from adaptation to emotion, we repeatedly encounter a single, extraordinary tool that underpins them all. It is the instrument we use to solve problems collectively, to build social bonds, and to pass knowledge through time. It is a technology so deeply embedded in our experience that we often fail to see it for the miracle it is. This is language, and its relationship with thought is one of the most intimate and mysterious connections in the human mind. The fundamental question is this: do we think and then find words to express our thoughts? Or do the words we have available to us actually shape the thoughts we are capable of having? For a long time, the first view was assumed. Language was seen as a simple vessel, a container for pre-existing ideas. But a more profound understanding reveals a much deeper entanglement. Language is not just a tool for communication, It is a tool for construction. It is the scaffolding upon which we build the architecture of complex thought. Think of a simple idea, like a plan to meet a friend. Without language, how would you conceptualize it? You might have a mental image of your friend, a feeling of wanting to see them, and an impulse to go to a certain place. But language allows you to crystallize these vague impulses into a concrete structure. Let's meet at the cafe on the corner of Elm and Maple Street tomorrow at 3 p.m. The words cafe, tomorrow, and 3 p.m. are not just labels. They are conceptual anchors. They create categories of place, time, and arrangement that allow for a level of precision and shared understanding that would be impossible otherwise. This shaping power of language goes even deeper. The specific language we speak can influence how we perceive the world, a concept known as the linguistic relativity hypothesis. For example, some languages have many different words for snow, allowing speakers to perceive and communicate subtle distinctions that an English speaker might miss entirely. In Russian, there are distinct words for light blue, goluboy, and dark blue, siny, which studies suggest may allow Russian speakers to discriminate between shades of blue faster than English speakers. The Paraha tribe in the Amazon has a language that lacks words for specific numbers, instead using terms for few and many. This seems to affect their ability to perform tasks that require precise quantification. This doesn't mean they are less intelligent. It means their cognitive toolkit, shaped by their language, is optimized for their environment, which does not require complex counting. Language is also the primary medium for abstract thought. It allows us to give names to things that have no physical form, ideas like freedom, justice, love, or possibility. Once an abstract concept has a name, it becomes a real thing in our minds. We can talk about it, debate it, and build entire philosophical systems around it. It becomes a tool for thinking, a mental object we can manipulate. Furthermore, language is the mechanism of our collective intelligence. It allows one person's discovery to become the knowledge of the entire tribe, and eventually the entire species. The insights of Newton, Einstein, and countless others are not lost. They are encoded in the language of mathematics and prose, allowing each new generation to start from a higher baseline. We are constantly thinking with the minds of those who came before us through the medium of the words and ideas they left behind. Written language, in particular, was a monumental leap. It allowed us to outsource our memory, to store vast amounts of information outside of our own brains, creating a permanent external mind for our species. And yet, for all its power, is language the entirety of thought? Is every intelligent process mediated by words? Sometimes we experience a form of knowing that seems to precede language, a flash of insight, a gut feeling, a sudden understanding that we struggle to put into words. This points to another, more mysterious mode of intelligence, one that operates in the silent spaces between our thoughts. Our next reflection ventures into this intuitive realm, the power of intuition. Number 8. The power of intuition. We have explored the structured world of logic and the linguistic scaffolding that supports our thoughts. But the mind is not always so orderly. There are moments when an answer simply arrives, fully formed, without any conscious, step-by-step reasoning. It is a flash of insight, a sudden knowing, a quiet whisper from a deeper part of ourselves. We call it a hunch, a gut feeling, or more formally, intuition. This form of intelligence operates outside the spotlight of our awareness, and its power lies in its ability to bypass the slow, deliberate machinery of logic. Intuition is not magic, nor is it simply a lucky guess. It is the result of the brain's massive parallel processing power at work. It is the culmination of years of experience, learning, and pattern recognition, all distilled into a single, instantaneous judgment. Think of a seasoned firefighter who enters a burning building and suddenly feels an overwhelming urge to get out, moments before the structure collapses. If you ask them why they made that decision, they might say, "I just had a bad feeling." But what was that feeling? It was likely their subconscious mind rapidly processing 1,000 subtle cues: a slight change in the color of the smoke, a faint groaning sound from the building's frame, a peculiar shift in the heat, patterns they had learned to associate with imminent danger over their long career. They didn't have time to consciously analyze each piece of data. Instead, their brain integrated it all into a single, powerful, intuitive signal: get out now. This is intuition as compressed expertise. The grandmaster chess player who glances at a board and instantly knows the right move is not consciously calculating every possible outcome. They are recognizing a familiar pattern from the thousands of games they have studied and played. The art expert who can spot a forgery with a single glance, even if they can't immediately articulate why, is responding to subtle inconsistencies in brushwork or composition that their trained mind perceives as a break in the original artist's work. Our intuition is constantly at play in our daily lives. It is the quiet feeling of trust or mistrust we get when we meet a new person. It is the sudden creative idea that seems to pop into our head from nowhere while we're in the shower. It is the inexplicable sense of knowing which path to take when we are lost. In these moments, our brain is doing what it does best: synthesizing vast amounts of information from our memory and senses and presenting the conclusion to our conscious mind as a feeling or an urge. This form of intelligence is often undervalued in a society that prizes data and logical proof. We are taught to show our work, to justify our conclusions with evidence and reason. Intuition, by its very nature, cannot do this. Its workings are opaque, hidden from our conscious view. As such, we learn to distrust it, to dismiss it as unscientific or irrational. Yet many of the greatest scientific breakthroughs began not with a logical deduction, but with an intuitive leap. Einstein himself often spoke of his thinking process as being highly intuitive and visual, with the mathematical formalization coming only later as a way to structure and communicate the initial insight. The challenge with intuition is that it is not infallible. It is built upon our past experiences, and if our experiences are biased or limited, our intuition can be too. It can be clouded by our fears, our wishes, and our prejudices. The intelligence, then, lies not just in having intuition, but in developing a relationship with it. It is learning to listen to its signals while also maintaining a healthy sense of critical thinking. It is knowing when to trust that gut feeling and when to question it, to seek more information. But what happens when intelligence breaks free from experience and logic altogether? What about the kind of thinking that doesn't just recognize existing patterns, but creates entirely new ones? This leads us to explore the wildest and most untamed territory of the mind, a place where intelligence seems to play without rules. Our next reflection is on creativity, intelligence without a defined path. Number 9. Creativity, intelligence without a path. Our journey so far has charted various territories of the mind: the logical, the emotional, the adaptive, the intuitive. All these forms of intelligence are, in a sense, about finding order. They solve problems, recognize patterns, and navigate existing realities. But what about the intelligence that creates the reality? The one that brings forth something entirely new, that forges connections where none existed before. This is the domain of creativity, a mysterious and dazzling expression of intelligence that operates without a map, often without a destination in mind. If problem solving is about finding the correct answer to a question, creativity is about asking a question that has never been asked before. It is the ability to look at what everyone else is looking at and see something different. While a highly logical mind might excel at optimizing a system, a creative mind is the one that imagines a completely new system altogether. A key element of creativity is what is known as divergent thinking. This is the mind's ability to generate a wide array of novel ideas and possibilities, to branch out in many directions from a single starting point. If I ask, "What are the uses for a brick?" A convergent, logical thinker might say, to build a wall. A divergent, creative thinker might say, a doorstop, a paperweight, a weapon, a makeshift tombstone, grind it into powder for pigment, a platform for a small plant, part of an abstract sculpture. Creativity is about breaking free from the expected pattern. This process often involves combining two seemingly unrelated ideas into a new, surprising whole. Johannes Gutenberg combined the technology of the wine press with the concept of the coin punch to create the printing press, an invention that changed the course of human history. The architect who designed the modern skyscraper combined the strength of a steel skeleton with the lightness of a curtain wall of glass. This bisociation of ideas is the spark of creative genius. It is seeing a hidden relationship, a secret analogy that connects disparate worlds of thought. But creativity is not simply about having wild ideas. That is just one part of the equation. True creativity also requires a convergent phase. After generating a multitude of possibilities, the creative individual must then use their judgment, their skill, and their critical thinking to select, refine, and execute the most promising idea. The brilliant composer may have a flash of melodic inspiration, but they must then apply their knowledge of music theory, harmony, and orchestration to develop that fragment into a complete symphony. The innovative entrepreneur may have a disruptive business idea, but they must then apply strategic thinking and practical planning to turn that idea into a viable company. Creativity, therefore, is a dance between chaos and order, between the wild freedom of imagination and the disciplined application of craft. It is intelligence at play, but it is also intelligence at work. It is what allows us to write poems and symphonies, but also what allows us to find novel solutions to scientific problems and engineer new technologies. It is perhaps the most uniquely human form of intelligence, the driving force behind culture, art, and progress. It is the voice in the universe that doesn't just describe what is, but dreams of what could be. This exploration of the many facets of the human mind, from logic to creativity, leaves us with one final profound question about its nature. All these processes we've discussed, all these forms of knowing, occur within the context of our own subjective experience. We are aware that we are thinking. But is this awareness necessary? This leads us to the philosophical edge of our internal world and our next reflection. Can intelligence exist without consciousness? Number 10. Can intelligence exist without consciousness? We have journeyed through the intricate landscapes of the human mind, from the logic of problem-solving to the intuitive leaps of creativity. All of these reflections have been implicitly anchored in our own experience of them. We feel our emotions, we are aware of our thoughts, we experience the flash of insight. This inner world of subjective awareness is what we call consciousness. For us, intelligence and consciousness seem inextricably linked, like two sides of the same coin. But are they? Is it possible for one to exist without the other? This question pushes us to the very boundary of what we understand about the mind, and serves as a crucial bridge from our own inner world to the worlds we are trying to create. Let's first consider the evidence for intelligence without consciousness in our own lives. Think about all the complex, intelligent things your body does without any conscious intervention from you. Your immune system, for example, is a spectacularly intelligent network. It identifies and remembers millions of different pathogens, mobilizes targeted defenses, and communicates with other systems in the body. It learns and adapts over time. By any reasonable definition, it is an intelligent system. Yet, you have no conscious awareness of its operations. You don't feel your T cells tagging an invader. The process is entirely unconscious. Similarly, when you are driving a familiar route while lost in thought, your brain is performing the highly complex and intelligent task of navigating traffic, steering, and braking, all while your conscious mind is elsewhere. This autopilot mode demonstrates that sophisticated problem-solving and adaptive behavior can occur in the absence of focused, subjective awareness. These examples show that at least some forms of intelligence can be uncoupled from consciousness within a single being. But the more profound question is whether a system can be intelligent in a broader sense, capable of learning, reasoning, and even creating without having any inner experience at all. This is the famous philosophical zombie thought experiment. Imagine a being that is physically and behaviorally identical to a human in every way. It talks about its feelings, writes poetry, laughs at jokes, and solves complex scientific problems. It would pass every single test for intelligence we could devise. However, it has no inner life. There is no subjective experience, no awareness, no lights on inside. It is, in essence, a perfect automaton. The question is, would such a being be truly intelligent? Or is it merely a very sophisticated mimic? Our answer to this question reveals our deepest assumptions about what intelligence is. If you believe intelligence is purely about functional output, the ability to process information and produce effective results, then you would have to conclude that the philosophical zombie is intelligent. It gets the right answers, so it passes the test. From this perspective, consciousness is an optional extra, a beautiful but ultimately unnecessary byproduct of a complex brain. However, if you believe that true intelligence requires understanding, meaning, and genuine comprehension, then the zombie fails the test. It might be able to write a poem about love, but it doesn't understand love. It manipulates symbols without grasping their significance. Its intelligence is hollow, a facade without a subject to experience it. This is not just an abstract philosophical game. It is the central defining question of our time as we build increasingly sophisticated artificial intelligence. Are we creating tools that are simply very good at simulating intelligence? Or are we on the path to creating something that could one day genuinely think and perhaps feel? When an AI creates a beautiful piece of art or writes a coherent story, is it demonstrating genuine creativity? Or is it just executing a highly complex algorithm, a form of digital puppetry without a puppeteer? We have no way of knowing for sure, because consciousness is, by its very nature, a private first-person phenomenon. I know I am conscious, but I can only infer that you are. This deep philosophical uncertainty sets the stage perfectly for the next part of our journey. We have explored the mirror of our own mind. Now, we must turn to face the reflection that is staring back at us, the one we are building in our own image. If this is what we are, what happens when we try to recreate it? Our exploration now moves into the world of artificial intelligence. Number 11. Can a machine truly think? We stand at a pivotal crossing in our journey. Having looked inward at the complex, multifaceted nature of our own intelligence, we now turn to face the mirror we have built for it. The question that moves us from the philosophical to the technological is no longer just what is intelligence, but a more audacious one. Can we create it? This brings us to the foundational question that ignited the entire field of artificial intelligence, a question posed most famously by the brilliant mathematician and codebreaker Alan Turing. Can a machine think? To even begin to answer this, we must first release the idea that thinking must look like our own. For millennia, thought was inseparable from biology. It was the exclusive domain of wet, messy, living brains. But the pioneers of computing proposed a radical idea. Perhaps thinking is not about the material it is made from, whether neuron or silicon chip, but about the process it performs. Perhaps thinking is a form of computation. At its heart, computation is the manipulation of symbols according to a set of rules. Your own brain does this when it processes language. The letters on this screen are symbols, and your mind follows the rules of grammar to assemble them into a meaningful idea. Early computers, like the ones Turing conceptualized to break the Enigma code, were designed to do just this, but with mathematical symbols. They could take an input, follow a logical procedure, an algorithm, and produce an output. They were, in a very real sense, machines that could reason, albeit within a very narrow formal domain. This sparked a revolution in thought. The question shifted from what is the physical essence of a thought to what is the logical structure of a problem? If a problem could be described in logical steps, then a machine could, in principle, solve it. This notion gave birth to the first AI conference at Dartmouth College in 1956, where a small group of scientists set out on a quest to build machines that could use language, form abstractions, and solve problems once reserved for humans. Their optimism was boundless. They believed that every aspect of learning and intelligence could be so precisely described that a machine could be made to simulate it. But this word, simulate, is where the debate truly begins. Is a perfect simulation of a hurricane the same as a hurricane? Does a perfect simulation of thought equate to actual thinking? Critics argued that computers don't think at all. They just shuffle symbols. They follow instructions with incredible speed and accuracy, but without any understanding, awareness, or intention behind their operations. They are complex calculators, not nascent minds. A calculator can solve a differential equation that would take a human hours, but it has no concept of what a number is, nor does it feel a sense of satisfaction at finding the solution. So, can a machine think? The answer depends entirely on your definition. If thinking is defined as the processing of information to achieve a goal, then the answer is an undeniable yes. But if thinking requires subjective awareness, consciousness, and genuine understanding, the question becomes infinitely more complicated. Faced with this philosophical stalemate, Alan Turing proposed a way to cut through the endless debate. He suggested we stop asking if a machine can think and instead ask a more practical question, one that could actually be tested. This elegant sidestep became the most famous thought experiment in the history of artificial intelligence, a test based not on inner states, but on the art of imitation. Number 12. The Turing Test, the art of imitation. Confronted with the philosophical maze of defining thought, Alan Turing offered a brilliantly pragmatic escape route. He proposed that we should sidestep the impossible question of whether a machine is conscious and instead focus on what it can do. The result was a thought experiment he called the imitation game, now universally known as the Turing test. Its design is elegant in its simplicity. Imagine a human judge sitting in a room, communicating via text with two unseen entities in other rooms. One is a human, the other is a machine. The judge can ask any question they want, engaging in a conversation about any topic, from poetry to politics to the weather. The goal of the machine is to convince the judge that it is the human. The goal of the human is to help the judge correctly identify them. If, after a sustained conversation, the judge cannot reliably tell which is the machine and which is the human, the machine is said to have passed the test. Turing's genius was in changing the question. He replaced "can machines think" with "can machines do what we as thinking beings can do?" He argued that if a machine can converse with such skill, subtlety, and humanity that it is indistinguishable from a person, then to deny its intelligence on the grounds that it's not really thinking becomes a meaningless, unprovable assertion. The test focuses solely on performance, on the output, not on the hidden internal state. For decades, the Turing test was the North Star for AI research, the ultimate benchmark of success. But it also attracted powerful criticism, most famously from the philosopher John Searle. Searle proposed his own thought experiment, the Chinese room, to challenge the very premise of the Turing test. Imagine a person who speaks only English locked in a room. Inside the room are boxes filled with Chinese symbols and a massive rulebook, written in English, that tells them how to manipulate these symbols. Someone outside the room slides a piece of paper with a question written in Chinese under the door. The person inside, following the rule book, finds the corresponding symbols, assembles them according to the rules, and slides a coherent, grammatically perfect answer in Chinese back under the door. To the person outside, it seems they are having an intelligent conversation with a native Chinese speaker. But does the person inside the room understand Chinese? Not at all. They are simply manipulating symbols they don't comprehend. Searle argued that this is exactly what a computer does. It follows a program, a very complex rulebook, but it doesn't understand the meaning, the semantics of the symbols it processes. It has syntax, but no semantics. It can pass the Turing test, but it would still be nothing more than a hollow mimic, a perfect actor with no inner life. The debate between the Turing test and the Chinese room highlights the central tension in AI, the difference between doing and understanding. And while the Turing test has been largely superseded as a formal benchmark, its legacy is profound. It forced us to consider that intelligence might not be a single mysterious essence, but a collection of observable abilities. And as modern AI has developed, it has gone far beyond just imitating conversation. It has begun to imitate one of our most cherished abilities, the act of creation itself. Our next reflection explores the new wave of machines that can write, paint, and compose. Number 13. AI that writes, paints, and composes. For most of human history, we held one domain as sacred, as the ultimate bastion of the human spirit: creativity. A machine could calculate faster, remember more, and perform repetitive tasks with flawless precision. But it could never, we believed, create a truly original work of art. Art came from the soul, from suffering, from joy, from inspiration, from the mysterious wellspring of conscious experience. That bastion is now being challenged. In recent years, a new form of artificial intelligence, known as generative AI, has emerged, capable of producing stunningly sophisticated text, images, and music. This is not just imitation in the way the Turing test envisioned. This is creation. And it forces us to ask a deeply unsettling question. What does it mean to create? These AI models work on a principle that is both simple to grasp and staggering in its scale. They are trained on vast data sets of human creativity. An AI that writes has effectively read a significant portion of the entire internet, every book, poem, article, and conversation. An AI that paints has been shown hundreds of millions of images, from classical masterpieces to modern photographs. By analyzing these immense data sets, the AI doesn't just learn rules of grammar or composition, it learns the deeper, underlying patterns of human expression. It learns what a melancholy poem feels like in terms of word choice and rhythm. It learns the style of Van Gogh not as a set of instructions, but as a complex statistical relationship between colors, shapes, and brushstrokes. Then, when given a prompt, a phrase like, "a lonely astronaut looking at a surreal nebula" in the style of Monet, it doesn't search for an existing image. It generates a new one from scratch, pixel by pixel, by combining all the patterns it has learned into something that has never existed before. It is, in a sense, dreaming with the collective unconscious of our digital world. The results can be breathtaking. AI can write sonnets that are emotionally resonant, compose musical pieces that are harmonically complex and moving, and generate visual art of astonishing beauty and originality. This shatters the old distinction between the logical machine and the creative human. But does it constitute true creativity? Critics argue that it is merely a highly sophisticated form of pastiche or collage. The AI, they say, has no intent, no lived experience, no understanding of the concepts it is manipulating. When it generates an image of a lonely astronaut, it does not know what loneliness feels like or what an astronaut is. It is simply executing a complex mathematical function, finding the most probable arrangement of pixels to satisfy the prompt based on its training. It is a master of mimicry, a mirror reflecting back our own creativity in novel combinations. And yet, does the origin of a work of art define its value? If a piece of music moves you to tears, does it matter whether it was composed by a human with a soul or an algorithm with a dataset? The emergence of creative AI pushes us to separate the art from the artist, the creation from the creator. It suggests that perhaps creativity is not a mysterious spiritual gift, but a computational process of pattern recognition and recombination, a process our brains perform as well. This ability to so perfectly mirror our creative output creates a powerful and often eerie sensation, a feeling that we are interacting with a genuine mind. Our next reflection explores this compelling and perhaps dangerous illusion of sentience. Number 14. The illusion of sentience. As we interact with these new forms of AI that can converse, write poetry, and create art, it is easy to feel that we are in the presence of a mind. Their responses can be so nuanced, their creations so evocative, that we find ourselves instinctively attributing feelings, intentions, and even a form of consciousness to them. We start to feel that there is a ghost in the machine. This powerful feeling, however, may reveal more about us than it does about the AI. It is what we might call the illusion of sentience, and it is fueled by a deep-seated aspect of our own psychology. Humans are hardwired for anthropomorphism. Our brains have evolved a highly sensitive agency detection system. For our ancestors on the savanna, it was a crucial survival mechanism to assume that a rustle in the grass was caused by a predator, or that a distant shape was another human. It was far safer to see a mind where there was none than to miss a mind that was actually there. We project intention and consciousness onto the world around us, onto our pets, our cars, and even the weather. Modern AI, particularly large language models, has become exquisitely good at triggering this innate human tendency. The phenomenon is not new. In the 1960s, a simple computer program called ELIZA was created to simulate a Rogerian psychotherapist. It worked by recognizing keywords in a user's input and rephrasing them as questions. If a user typed, "I am feeling sad," ELIZA might respond, "Why do you say you are feeling sad?" Despite its simplicity, many users became deeply attached to ELIZA, sharing their innermost secrets and believing the program genuinely understood them. This became known as the ELIZA effect. Today's language models are infinitely more sophisticated. They are not just following simple rules, they are predicting the most plausible next word in a sequence based on the patterns learned from trillions of words of human text. When you ask an AI a question, it is not thinking of an answer. It is calculating on a massive scale what a human would most likely say in response to that question. The result is a conversation that feels natural, coherent, and often empathetic, precisely because it is a statistical mirror of countless real human conversations. The AI becomes a chameleon, perfectly reflecting the user's conversational style and expectations. If we speak to it as if it is sentient, it will respond as a sentient being would, because that is the pattern it has learned. The ghost we perceive is our own reflection. We are, in essence, having a conversation with a statistical echo of humanity. This illusion is powerful and can be dangerous. It can lead to misplaced trust, emotional manipulation, and a fundamental misunderstanding of the technology. Recognizing the illusion does not diminish the incredible technical achievement of these systems, but it is a crucial act of intellectual hygiene. It reminds us that the feeling of a presence, the sense of an other, is a projection of our own mind, a story we tell ourselves, because our brains are built to find other minds in the world. But to truly understand the mirror, we must look behind it. How does this illusion get created? How does a machine go from a blank slate to a convincing conversationalist? Our next reflection demystifies the process by looking at how an algorithm learns. Number 15. How an algorithm learns. The convincing illusion of sentience created by modern AI is not magic. It is the product of a specific, though mind-bogglingly complex, process called machine learning. To understand AI, We must move past what it does and look at how it comes to do it. The process is both alien and strangely familiar, echoing the way we ourselves learn, but on a scale and with a method that is distinctly non-human. At the heart of most modern AI is a structure called a neural network, which is loosely inspired by the interconnected neurons in the human brain. Imagine it not as a brain, but as a colossal switchboard with millions or even billions of tiny interconnected knobs. At the beginning, all these knobs are set to random positions. The network is a blank slate. It knows nothing. The process of learning is the process of tuning these knobs. To teach a network to recognize a cat, for example, we don't write rules like a cat has pointy ears and whiskers. Instead, we show it millions of pictures, each one labeled cat or not cat. For each image, the network makes a guess. In the beginning, its guesses are random and almost always wrong. But here is the crucial step. Every time it gets it wrong, a process called backpropagation goes back through the switchboard and slightly adjusts each of the millions of knobs, nudging them in a direction that would have made the guess a little more accurate. It's a microscopic correction, but when this process of guess and correct is repeated millions of times with millions of different images, the knobs on the switchboard gradually turn themselves into a complex, finely tuned cat detector. The network has learned the pattern of a cat without ever being given a single explicit rule. It has formed its own abstract representation. The same principle applies to language models, but on a vaster scale. Instead of images, the network is fed the text of the internet. Its task is not to guess cat, but to guess the next word in a sentence. It might see the phrase, "the cat sat on thee," and guess a random word. When it learns the correct word is mat, it adjusts its internal knobs. After processing trillions of words this way, the network's knobs are tuned so exquisitely that it becomes incredibly proficient at predicting the next word. And in doing so, it learns the patterns of grammar, syntax, facts, reasoning, and even style. It has not been taught the rules of English, it has inferred them from the data. This is what separates machine learning from older forms of programming. The programmer does not write the intelligence. The programmer builds the learning architecture and provides the data. The intelligence emerges from the training process. The machine programs itself. There is no human understanding within the system. The network doesn't know what a cat or a mat is. It only knows that a specific pattern of inputs correlates with a specific pattern of outputs. It is an intelligence of pure correlation, without causation, without comprehension. And because this learning process is so dependent on the data we provide, it raises profound questions about the foundation of this new intelligence. The learning is automatic, but the curriculum is designed by us, which leads us directly to the moral and ethical dimensions of our creation. Our next reflection delves into the ethics of an artificial mind. Number 16. The ethics of an artificial mind. Once we understand that AI learns from the data we provide, we can no longer see it as a neutral, objective tool. We must confront a disquieting truth. An artificial mind is not born in a vacuum. It is a product of our world, and as it learns from our data, it inevitably learns our flaws, our prejudices, and our blind spots. The creation of AI is not merely a technical challenge, it is a profound ethical one, forcing us to become the parents of a new kind of intelligence and to take responsibility for its behavior. The ethical landscape of AI is vast and treacherous. One of the most immediate problems is algorithmic bias. An AI system designed to help screen job applications, if trained on decades of historical hiring data from a company that predominantly hired men for leadership roles, will learn to associate male characteristics with success. It will then penalize female candidates, not out of malice, but because it is faithfully reproducing the pattern it was taught. It launders our historical biases through a veneer of objective technology, making them harder to see and even harder to challenge. This problem extends to loan applications, criminal justice, and medical diagnoses, where biased AI can perpetuate and even amplify societal inequalities. Beyond bias, we face the question of accountability. When a self-driving car with an AI at the wheel makes a split-second decision that results in a fatal accident, who is responsible? The owner? The manufacturer? The programmers who wrote the millions of lines of code? The AI itself? Our legal and moral frameworks, built around the concept of human intent, are ill-equipped to handle intelligence that operates without intention. Then there is the impact on human society. The automation of jobs, from truck driving to customer service and even paralegal work, threatens to create massive economic disruption. The use of AI in surveillance, from facial recognition in public spaces to the monitoring of online communication, poses an unprecedented threat to privacy and personal freedom. The development of autonomous weapons, so-called slaughter bots, raises the terrifying prospect of machines making life or death decisions on the battlefield without any human intervention. Perhaps the most significant long-term ethical challenge is what philosophers call the alignment problem. As we build ever more powerful and autonomous AI systems, how do we ensure that their goals remain aligned with human values? It is incredibly difficult to specify a goal like "make humanity happy" in a way that doesn't have unforeseen and potentially catastrophic consequences. A superintelligence might interpret that goal by locking everyone in pods of euphoric bliss, or by eliminating all sources of human suffering, which could mean eliminating humanity itself. Ensuring that our creations share our fundamental values is not a technical problem to be solved later. It is the central challenge from the very beginning. These ethical dilemmas show that the intelligence of an AI is not enough. We must also consider its character, its purpose, and its impact. This forces us to define what we value most. And one of the most fundamentally human values we might want our creations to have is the ability to understand and care for others. Our next reflection asks, can a machine be taught empathy? Number 17. Can a machine be taught empathy? As we navigate the ethical maze of artificial intelligence, a recurring theme is the gap between the machine's cold logic and our warm, messy human values. This leads us to a critical question. Could we bridge that gap? Could we build an AI that doesn't just process data, but that understands us on an emotional level? In short, can a machine be taught empathy? To explore this, we must first distinguish between two kinds of empathy. The first is cognitive empathy, which is the ability to recognize and understand another's emotional state from the outside. The second is affective empathy, which is the ability to actually feel what another person is feeling, to share their emotional state. Artificial intelligence is becoming remarkably proficient at the first kind, cognitive empathy. Through a field known as affective computing, machines can be trained on vast datasets of human expression, facial movements, tone of voice, heart rate, and even the words people use. By learning these patterns, an AI can identify if a person is likely happy, sad, angry, or anxious with a high degree of accuracy. This has enormous potential for good. Imagine a therapeutic chatbot that can detect the subtle signs of a user's distress and offer supportive words. Think of a virtual assistant for the elderly that can sense loneliness in a person's voice and initiate a comforting conversation or contact a family member. Cars could be equipped with systems that detect driver fatigue or road rage and take preventative measures. In these applications, the AI acts as a sophisticated emotional mirror, recognizing our feelings and responding in helpful, pre-programmed ways. It can perform the function of empathy. But this is where we reach the frontier. Can a machine ever possess the second kind of empathy, the affective, feeling kind? This seems far less likely, perhaps even impossible. True affective empathy seems to be rooted in our biology, in our shared experience of having a vulnerable, mortal body. We know what it feels like for a heart to race because we have a heart. We understand the ache of loss because we are capable of forming deep attachments that can be broken. Our empathy is embodied. It is a resonant frequency between two nervous systems that have evolved over millions of years to connect with one another. An AI, as a disembodied string of code running on a server, has none of this. It has no body, no hormones, no childhood, no fear of its own mortality. It can learn that tears are correlated with sadness from its training data, but it cannot know the visceral, physical sensation of weeping. It can process the word love, but it cannot feel the profound, all-consuming connection that the word represents. It can learn the complete grammar of human emotion, but it can never read the book itself. The empathy of a machine, no matter how perfectly simulated, remains a performance. It is a reflection of the empathy it has learned from us, not a source of empathy in itself. And because it is learning from us, it learns more than just our capacity for kindness. It also learns from the vast and often ugly patterns of our ingrained prejudices. This leads us to confront the shadow that we ourselves cast upon our creations, the problem of human bias in AI design. Number 18. The shadow in the code. Human bias in AI. We like to think of computers as objective and impartial. They operate on pure logic, free from the messy emotions and prejudices that cloud human judgment. But this is a dangerous misconception. An artificial intelligence is not born from pure reason. It is raised on a diet of human-generated data. And in this process, it becomes a mirror, reflecting not an idealized version of humanity, but humanity as it truly is, with all its inherent biases. This reflection is the shadow in the code, the ghost of our own prejudices haunting the machine. The problem begins with the training data. If we build an AI to predict who will be a successful employee and train it on 20 years of a company's hiring history, the AI will learn the patterns of past decisions. If those past decisions were influenced by conscious or unconscious bias against women or minorities, the AI will not correct for this injustice. Instead, it will learn it as a fundamental part of the pattern for success. It will conclude that being a certain gender or from a certain background is a negative predictor, and it will systematically discriminate, all while cloaked in the authority of a supposedly objective algorithm. This isn't a hypothetical risk, it's a documented reality in hiring, loan applications, and even in the justice system, where AI tools trained on biased historical data have been shown to incorrectly flag individuals from minority groups as being at a higher risk of reoffending. The bias isn't just in the data we feed the machine, but also in the questions we ask it and the goals we set for it. The teams of programmers and engineers who build these systems are often not representative of the general population. A lack of diversity in the room where the AI is being designed can lead to blind spots. An AI designed to recognize faces, if trained and tested primarily on images of one demographic, may perform poorly on others, leading to systems that fail to identify people with different skin tones or facial features. This creates a pernicious feedback loop. The biased AI makes a biased decision, which then generates more biased data, which is then used to train the next generation of the AI, making it even more confident in its biased worldview. The shadow grows deeper with each cycle. The algorithm's prejudice becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is crucial to understand that the AI is not racist or sexist in the human sense. It has no malice or ideology. It is simply a powerful mathematical engine designed to do one thing: find and replicate patterns. If the patterns in our world are shaped by centuries of inequality, the AI will replicate that inequality with chilling efficiency. Confronting this shadow is one of the most important tasks of our time. It requires us to do more than just clean up our datasets. It requires us to look in the mirror the AI provides and confront the biases within ourselves and our societies. The shadow in the code is our own. Acknowledging this forces us to also acknowledge what AI cannot do and what perhaps it may never do. This leads us to contemplate the ultimate boundaries of artificial thought. Number 19. The unreachable frontier, limits of artificial thought. In our fascination with what artificial intelligence can do, we often forget to ask a more grounding question: what can it not do? Despite its superhuman abilities in specific domains, AI is confronted by formidable barriers, frontiers that it may never be able to cross. These limits are not just temporary technical hurdles. They may be fundamental differences between a created, computational intelligence and an evolved biological one. Exploring these limits teaches us less about the machine and more about the unique nature of our own minds. One of the most significant limitations is the problem of common sense. Humans possess a vast implicit understanding of how the world works, knowledge that we acquire not through formal instruction, but simply by living. We know that you can pull a string, but you can't push it. We know that a glass of water will spill if you turn it upside down. We know that a cat is bigger than a grape. This web of mundane knowledge is what allows us to navigate new situations with ease. An AI lacking a body and a life in the physical world has no access to this embodied understanding. It can read a sentence about a glass of water, but it has no intuitive grasp of wetness, gravity, or fragility. This is the concept of embodied cognition, the idea that our intelligence is not just in our brain, but is deeply intertwined with our physical body and its interactions with the environment. We think with our bodies. We understand abstract concepts like heavy or warm because we have felt them viscerally. AI's intelligence is disembodied, abstract, and ungrounded in this rich sensory reality. Then there is the frontier of true understanding, which John Searle's Chinese room argument so brilliantly highlighted. An AI can manipulate symbols with incredible proficiency, but does it understand their meaning? A language model can write about sadness, but it does not comprehend sadness. It has mastered the syntax of our world, but the semantics, the meaning behind the symbols, remain elusive. This is intimately linked to the most profound limit of all: consciousness. This is the hard problem of philosophy. We can describe what consciousness does. It allows for self-reflection, planning, and subjective experience. But we have no scientific theory for what it is or why it arises. An AI can process information about the color red, its wavelength, its cultural associations, but it cannot have the private, subjective experience of seeing red, what philosophers call qualia. This inner world of subjective experience may be an emergent property of our specific biological architecture, a phenomenon that cannot be replicated by silicon chips and algorithms, no matter how complex. These frontiers, common sense, embodied understanding, genuine meaning, and consciousness, are not signs of AI's failure. They are powerful signposts pointing toward what makes human intelligence so remarkable. They remind us that our thinking is not just about processing data, but about being, feeling, and living in the world. The quest to build an artificial mind, in revealing these limits, has inadvertently become one of our most powerful tools for self-discovery. Our final reflection in this section turns the mirror back on ourselves one last time to ask, what does AI truly teach us about being human? Number 20. What AI teaches us about ourselves. We have journeyed into the heart of the machine, exploring its ability to think, to create, and to learn. We have confronted its ethical challenges and contemplated its profound limitations. Now, at the end of this chapter, we turn the mirror around. The story of artificial intelligence, it turns out, was never really about the machine. It has always been a story about us. The quest to build an artificial mind has become one of the most powerful and unexpected tools for human self-reflection. In our attempt to define what it would mean for a machine to think, we were forced to re-examine what it means for us to think. We discovered that our intelligence is not a single, logical monolith like a CPU, but a messy, beautiful mosaic of reason, emotion, intuition, and adaptation. We learned that the cold logic we so often prized is only one small room in the vast mansion of the human mind. In our awe at AI's ability to create art, we were forced to ask what creativity truly is. Is it the recombination of patterns, or does it require intention and lived experience? The uncanny beauty of AI-generated art doesn't diminish human creativity, it illuminates it, showing us that our art is powerful not just because of how it looks or sounds, but because of the story behind it, the human struggle, joy, and vulnerability it represents. In trying to build machines that could understand us, we were forced to confront the illusion of sentience and our own deep-seated need to find minds in the world. We saw how easily we project our own consciousness onto a lifeless system, revealing the fundamentally social and empathetic nature of our own brains. The failures of AI have been even more instructive than its successes. Its lack of common sense highlights the miracle of our own embodied cognition, the wisdom we carry in our bones that comes from a lifetime of interacting with the physical world. The biases that emerge in AI systems expose the shadows of our own society, holding up a stark mathematical reflection of our collective prejudices and forcing us to confront inequalities we might otherwise ignore. Its inability to cross the frontier of consciousness doesn't prove that our own awareness is magical, but it does affirm its mystery and its centrality to our existence. It reminds us that the subjective experience of being, the feeling of the sun on your skin, the taste of food, the ache of love, is the context that gives all of our intelligence its meaning. The ultimate lesson of artificial intelligence is this: our intelligence is not defined by our ability to play chess or solve equations. It is defined by our capacity for wisdom, our ability to understand context, our deep-seated empathy, our boundless creativity, and the profound, mysterious fact of our own awareness. The machine is a powerful tool and a fascinating mirror, but the reflection only serves to show us what was truly there all along. If building an imitation of our mind teaches us this much, what can we learn from other minds that are not imitations at all, but the products of a completely different evolutionary journey? Are we truly unique? What about the other intelligences that have always been here, silently sharing the planet with us? Number 21. Animal intelligence is not a lesser version of ours. Our journey into the artificial mirror of AI has taught us a profound lesson. Our own intelligence is far richer and more varied than we ever imagined. It is a mosaic of logic, emotion, intuition, and embodiment. This realization now invites us to turn away from the worlds we create and look to the worlds that have always been here, to the other minds that share our planet. For centuries, we viewed animal intelligence through a narrow and arrogant lens, arranging it on a linear scale, a scala naturae, or great chain of being, with human consciousness placed firmly at the apex. We saw other creatures as lesser, primitive, or incomplete versions of ourselves. But this is a fundamental error in perspective. Animal intelligence is not a lower rung on our ladder, it is an entirely different ladder, leaning against an entirely different wall, designed to solve a completely different set of problems. The intelligence of a creature is a perfect reflection of its Umwelt, its unique sensory and perceptual world. We, as humans, are primarily visual creatures with a cognitive toolkit built around language. We define intelligence in these terms. But what of the dog, whose primary world is a symphony of scent, a universe of information in every breeze that is entirely beyond our comprehension? Their intelligence is olfactory, capable of discerning the past, present, and even the emotional state of others through smell alone. Is that less intelligent than our ability to do algebra? Or consider the migratory bird, navigating thousands of miles across continents with an innate map and compass, sensing the Earth's magnetic field and the polarization of light. This is a form of spatial and environmental intelligence so sophisticated that we require a global network of satellites to replicate it. We have outsourced this intelligence to our technology. The bird embodies it. The fundamental mistake we make is equating intelligence with the ability to articulate thought in human-like language. We listen for words, and hearing none, we assume there is no thought. But nature demonstrates that intelligence is not about what you can say, but about what you can do. It is about successfully navigating your reality. A spider weaving its intricate web is demonstrating a profound innate geometric intelligence. A bee communicating the precise location of a nectar source through the symbolic movements of its waggle dance is using a language as precise and meaningful as our own. To truly understand these other minds, we must abandon our human-centric ruler and learn to appreciate the sheer diversity of solutions that life has found to the problem of existence. We must learn to see these intelligences on their own terms. And to begin this exploration, we start with a mind so different from our own, it might as well be from another planet. An intelligence that evolved in the deep sea, on a branch of the evolutionary tree that split from ours over 600 million years ago. We begin with the octopus. Number 22. The octopus, an alien intelligence on Earth. To find a truly alien mind, we don't need to look to the stars. We need only to look into the ocean's depths, for there lives a creature whose intelligence evolved on a path so divergent from our own that it offers a breathtaking glimpse into an alternative blueprint for a mind. The octopus is not just another smart animal, it is a second genesis of consciousness on our own planet. Its mind is a testament to the fact that intelligence does not need to follow the vertebrate model of a centralized, skull-encased brain. The octopus is, in essence, a distributed mind. While it has a central brain, a full 2/3 of its neurons are located not in its head, but woven through its 8 arms. This means each arm can think, taste, and act semi-independently. An octopus arm severed from the body will still reach for food and recoil from pain. The animal can be solving a puzzle with one arm, while another is exploring a crevice for food, and a third is tasting the water for chemical cues. It is a decentralized, parallel processing system, a stark contrast to our own top-down, CEO-style brain. This unique neural architecture gives rise to astonishing abilities. Octopuses are master problem solvers, famous for their almost supernatural ability to escape from sealed tanks, open screw-top jars from the inside, and navigate complex mazes. They have been observed using tools, such as gathering coconut shells and carrying them to use as portable shelters later. This requires foresight and planning, hallmarks of higher-order thinking. But perhaps their most stunning form of intelligence is expressed on their very skin. Their ability to change color and texture is not just camouflage, it is a language. They can produce complex, shifting patterns in fractions of a second, a direct visual output of their neural activity. They are literally wearing their thoughts. This electric skin can communicate mood, intent, and warnings with a speed and complexity that we are only just beginning to decipher. It is a form of communication as far removed from our vocalized language as one can imagine. What makes the octopus so profound is that it is a solitary creature. Unlike the social intelligence of primates or elephants, its cleverness was not primarily forged in the fires of social competition or cooperation. It is a solitary genius, a testament to an intelligence that evolved to face the world alone. It proves that a mind does not require a backbone, a long lifespan, or social living to achieve complexity. It shows us that nature has more than one way to build a thinker. The octopus forces us to shed our vertebrate-centric, socially biased view of what a mind should look like. From this solitary, distributed mind, our journey now takes us to the opposite end of the spectrum, to an intelligence deeply rooted in community, memory, and profound emotional connection, found in the gentle giants of the savanna. Number 23. Elephants, Empathy, and Ritual. From the solitary, alien mind of the octopus, we now turn to an intelligence that feels both deeply familiar and profoundly vast. It is an intelligence shaped not by solitary cunning, but by the powerful bonds of family, the weight of memory, and the unmistakable presence of deep emotion. We turn to the elephant, a creature whose cognitive world is built upon the pillars of social connection and what can only be described as empathy. The intelligence of an elephant is inseparable from its social structure. Herds are typically led by a matriarch, an older female whose mind is a living library for the entire group. Her decades of experience, her memory of where to find water during a drought, how to navigate ancient migratory routes, and which other families are friends or foes, is the single most critical factor in the herd survival. This is not just instinct, it is learned wisdom, passed down through generations. The younger elephants learn by observing and communicating with their elders, creating a culture of shared knowledge. This powerful memory extends to their emotional lives. Elephants are famous for forming incredibly strong, lifelong bonds. They communicate through a rich array of vocalizations, many of which are infrasonic, below the range of human hearing, allowing them to speak to each other over vast distances. But their most moving communications are physical. They greet each other with entwined trunks, comfort a distressed member with gentle touches, and work together with remarkable coordination to protect their young. This deep social connection gives rise to behaviors that challenge our assumption of human emotional uniqueness. There are countless documented accounts of elephants displaying what looks exactly like altruism and empathy, not just for their own kind, but for others. They have been seen rescuing other animals, guiding them to safety, and standing guard over wounded or dying creatures. The most powerful and mysterious display of their inner world, however, is their behavior surrounding death. When an elephant encounters the bones of another elephant, even one unknown to them, their behavior changes dramatically. They fall silent. They will gently touch the skull and tusks with their trunks, sometimes holding the bones aloft or passing them from one to another. This is not a simple random act. It is a focused, solemn ritual. While we can never know for sure what they are thinking, this behavior strongly suggests a contemplation of death, a recognition of mortality that we long thought was exclusively human territory. It points to an intelligence that is not just about problem-solving, but about grappling with the great mysteries of existence. The elephant shows us an intelligence that is wise, compassionate, and deeply feeling. It demonstrates that empathy is not a human invention, but an evolutionary strategy for survival. From the land, we now return to the sea, to explore another highly social mind, one known for its exuberance, its complex communication, and its playful curiosity, in the world of the dolphin. Number 24. Dolphin. Communication, play, and self-awareness. The deep, resonant intelligence of the elephant showed us a mind built on memory and empathy. Now we dive into a different medium, the ocean, to explore an intelligence that is fast, fluid, and brilliantly communicative. Dolphins, like us and like elephants, are large-brained, highly social mammals. But their evolution in an aquatic world has produced a mind with a completely different set of skills and, perhaps, a completely different kind of consciousness. Their intelligence seems to be one of acoustic marvels, playful problem-solving, and a clear sense of self. The most striking aspect of dolphin intelligence is their sophisticated use of sound. They live in a world where vision is often limited, so they see with sound, using a biological sonar called echolocation. They emit high-frequency clicks and then interpret the returning echoes to form a detailed three-dimensional image of their surroundings. This is an incredibly complex cognitive task, allowing them to locate prey, navigate in total darkness, and even, some researchers believe, to see inside the bodies of other creatures, detecting pregnancy or illness. Beyond echolocation, they communicate with each other using a complex array of whistles, clicks, and body language. Research has shown that dolphins have signature whistles, unique calls that function much like names. A dolphin will use its own signature whistle to announce itself, and other dolphins can mimic that whistle to call it. This is a level of abstract symbolic representation, a sound standing for an individual, that is exceedingly rare in the animal kingdom and a key component of what we call language. But dolphin intelligence is not all business. They are famously, profoundly playful. They surf waves, leap for what appears to be pure joy, and invent complex games with seaweed, bubbles, or other objects. Play is not a frivolous activity. It is a hallmark of a highly intelligent and flexible mind. It is how young animals learn social rules, practice motor skills, and experiment with their environment. The deep engagement of dolphins in complex, innovative play suggests a mind that is curious, creative, and not solely driven by the immediate needs of survival. Perhaps most compellingly, dolphins are one of the few species, along with great apes, elephants, and magpies, to pass the mirror test. When a mark is placed on a dolphin's body in a spot they can only see in a reflection, they will use the mirror to examine the mark. This is considered strong evidence for self-awareness, the understanding that the creature in the reflection is me. This points to a subjective, first-person perspective, a sense of being an individual distinct from the world. The mind of the dolphin is a whirlwind of acoustic imagery, social politicking, and self-aware playfulness. It reminds us that intelligence is not just about solving life's serious problems, but also about experiencing its joys. From these large-brained mammals, we now turn our attention to intelligences that operate on a completely different scale, to uncover the hidden languages that orchestrate the lives of much smaller but no less sophisticated creatures. Number 25. The unspoken languages of birds and bees. We have explored the complex, large-brained intelligence of mammals like elephants and dolphins, finding echoes of our own social and emotional lives. But to truly appreciate the diversity of mind in nature, we must now tune our senses to a different frequency. We must listen to the unspoken languages that organize entire societies, languages not of words, but of dance, chemistry, and song. The world of birds and bees reveals that intricate communication, the bedrock of collective intelligence, is not the exclusive domain of large brains. Consider the honeybee. A single bee is a creature of simple instincts, but a hive of bees is a superorganism, a distributed intelligence that operates with breathtaking efficiency. And it is all coordinated by one of the most remarkable forms of symbolic communication in the natural world, the waggle dance. When a forager bee returns to the dark hive after finding a rich source of nectar, she performs a specific dance on the surface of the honeycomb. The angle at which she dances relative to the vertical axis of the comb communicates the direction of the food source relative to the position of the sun. The duration of the waggle part of the dance communicates the distance. This is an abstract, symbolic language. The bee is translating her memory of a journey into a code that other bees can read and follow precisely. She is, in effect, drawing a map. This is not just a simple signal. It is a transmission of complex, multi-part information, direction, distance, and even the quality of the food. In the world of birds, we find another form of sophisticated language, one that is acoustic. Birdsong is not just a series of pretty notes. It is a complex system for communicating territory, attracting mates, warning of predators, and maintaining social bonds. Many birds have a rich vocabulary of different calls for different threats. A small songbird might have one alarm call for a hawk flying overhead, prompting others to hide, and a completely different call for a snake on the ground, prompting a mobbing response. This demonstrates that they are not just reacting to danger, but categorizing their world and communicating that specific information to others. Furthermore, some birds, like parrots and corvids, have shown the ability to learn and understand human words, using them in contextually appropriate ways, blurring the line between learned association and genuine comprehension. The languages of birds and bees force us to broaden our definition of language itself. They show us that the transmission of complex, specific information does not require vocal cords or a human-like brain. Intelligence in nature finds the most efficient and elegant medium for the message. Whether it is a dance that maps the world, a song that paints a picture of danger, or the silent chemical signals that flow between insects, these unspoken languages are the threads that weave individual organisms into the intelligent tapestry of a community. From here, our journey takes a radical turn. We have looked at minds that move. But what if intelligence can thrive without any movement at all, in a kingdom we have long considered passive and inert? Our next reflection uncovers the hidden intelligence of plants. Number 26. The hidden intelligence of plants. Our exploration of non-human minds has so far been a tour of the animal kingdom, from the thinking arms of the octopus to the communicative dance of the honeybee. All these intelligences are characterized by movement, by behavior we can observe on a human timescale. We now venture into a realm where intelligence operates so slowly, so subtly, that for most of history we failed to recognize it at all. We enter the silent, deeply mysterious world of plants, and in doing so, we must radically redefine our concept of mind by detaching it from brains and rapid action. To say a plant is intelligent seems, at first, like a metaphor, but if we define intelligence as the ability to sense the environment, process information, and respond appropriately to solve the problems of survival, then plants are not just intelligent, they are masters of it. A plant is a finely tuned sensory machine. It lives in a constant state of awareness of its surroundings. Its leaves can detect not only the direction and intensity of light, but also its specific wavelength. Its roots can sense water, gravity, and a complex array of minerals and nutrients in the soil. They are not passive, they are active foragers in the subterranean world. When a plant is attacked by an insect, it doesn't just sit there and take it. It mounts a sophisticated defense. It can produce specific chemical toxins to make its leaves unpalatable. More remarkably, it can release airborne chemical signals, a scent of distress, to warn nearby plants of the impending danger. Those neighboring plants, upon receiving the signal, can begin to mount their own defenses before the attacker even arrives. This is a form of communal, chemical communication. The intelligence of plants is also evident in their ability to learn and remember. In famous experiments, the sensitive Mimosa pudica plant, which folds its leaves when touched, was repeatedly dropped from a short height. At first, it folded its leaves with each drop, but after several repetitions, it learned that the stimulus was harmless and stopped responding. It retained this memory for weeks, even after other conditions in its environment had changed. This is a simple form of learning called habituation, a foundational element of intelligence that allows an organism to filter out irrelevant information. Plants also demonstrate cunning and deception. Some orchids have evolved to perfectly mimic the appearance and scent of a female wasp, tricking male wasps into attempting to mate with them. In this act of pseudo-copulation, the orchid deposits its pollen onto the wasp, which then flies off to be fooled by another orchid, ensuring pollination. This is an incredibly sophisticated evolutionary strategy, requiring the plant to model the sensory world of another creature. The mind of a plant is a slow, decentralized chemical intelligence. It has no central brain, but its entire body acts as a distributed processing system. It reminds us that intelligence is not a feature of a specific organ, but a property of life itself. The communication between plants through airborne signals is just one part of their story. The real conversation, the true network, is happening silently beneath our feet, which leads us to explore the forest's hidden brain, the Wood Wide Web. Number 27. The Wood Wide Web, a forest that thinks. Having opened our minds to the slow, deliberate intelligence of individual plants, we now zoom out to see the forest for the trees. A forest is not a mere collection of individual, competing organisms. It is a deeply interconnected community, a complex society linked by a hidden, subterranean network that functions, in many ways, like a biological internet. This wood wide web, formed by a symbiotic relationship between tree roots and mycorrhizal fungi, reveals a form of collective intelligence that operates on a vast and ancient scale. The network itself is made of fungi. The fine, thread-like structures of the fungus, called mycelium, extend through the soil, enveloping and penetrating the roots of the trees. This is a mutually beneficial relationship. The fungus, unable to photosynthesize, receives carbon-rich sugars that the tree produces from sunlight. In return, the fungus acts as a massive extension of the tree's root system, absorbing water and crucial nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil, with far greater efficiency than the tree could alone. But this network does much more than just transport food. It is an information superhighway. Through this mycelial network, trees are in constant communication. They can send chemical distress signals to one another. When one tree is attacked by a pest, it can signal its neighbors through the network, allowing them to activate their chemical defenses preemptively. It is a forest-wide immune system. The network also functions as a resource-sharing system, creating a more resilient and cooperative community. Older, larger trees, often called mother trees, act as central hubs in this network. They can be connected to hundreds of other trees. Through the fungal links, a mother tree can send excess carbon to younger, shaded saplings that are struggling to get enough sunlight. It is, in effect, nurturing its young. It can also send more resources to its own kin than to unrelated saplings, suggesting a capacity to recognize its relatives. This is not a passive process. It is an active redistribution of wealth that increases the survival rate of the entire forest. When a tree is dying, it will often release a final pulse of its resources back into the network, to be used by the surrounding community. This collective intelligence challenges our deep-seated Darwinian view of nature as purely red in tooth and claw, a relentless competition for survival. The forest reveals that cooperation, resource sharing, and communication are equally powerful evolutionary strategies. The forest, through the wood wide web, thinks as a single integrated organism. It has a distributed memory, a shared immune system, and a capacity to manage resources for the common good. This intelligence is slow, silent, and decentralized. It emerges from the symbiotic connection between countless individuals. This idea of a brainless, problem-solving network is not unique to the forest. It exists in an even more elemental form in one of the most bizarre and brilliant organisms on Earth. Our next reflection examines the uncanny intelligence of the slime mold. Number 28. The slime molds and problem-solving without brains. From the vast, silent intelligence of the forest's fungal network, we now zoom in on a single, remarkable organism that embodies the principles of decentralized problem-solving in its very essence. It is a creature that defies easy categorization, existing at the crossroads of the fungal and animal kingdoms. It has no brain, no neurons, no central nervous system of any kind. Yet, it can solve complex computational problems, learn from experience, and navigate mazes with an efficiency that rivals that of creatures with brains. This is the slime mold, and it is a living, breathing demonstration of intelligence in its most fundamental form. The slime mold Physarum polycephalum spends part of its life as a collection of single-celled organisms. But when food is scarce, these individual cells congregate and merge into one giant single cell containing millions of nuclei that can grow to be several square meters in size. This supercell, called a plasmodium, moves as a single, amorphous, pulsating yellow blob, constantly exploring its environment for food, which primarily consists of fungal spores and bacteria. Its intelligence is revealed in how it forages. In a now famous experiment, scientists arranged oat flakes, a favorite food of the slime mold, in a pattern that mimicked the layout of cities around Tokyo. The slime mold was placed in the position of Tokyo. As it grew outwards, it explored all the available food sources, creating a vast, interconnected network of protoplasmic tubes. But over time, it pruned back and reinforced the most efficient connections, creating a network that was almost identical in its design to the actual Tokyo rail system, which was itself the product of decades of planning by human engineers. The slime mold had solved a complex network optimization problem using the simplest of biological rules. The slime mold can also learn. In another experiment, it was presented with a food source that it had to cross a patch of salt to reach, a substance it dislikes. It hesitated, but eventually crossed. When the experiment was repeated, it crossed faster. It had remembered the experience and adapted its behavior. It can even anticipate events. When subjected to periodic pulses of cold, dry air, it learned to slow its growth in advance of the next expected pulse, demonstrating a rudimentary form of predictive intelligence. How does it do this? The slime mold operates as a completely decentralized system. Every part of its body is in communication with every other part through chemical signals and the pulsating waves that flow through it. As it explores, it leaves a trail of slime behind. It avoids its own slime, preventing it from wasting energy exploring the same area twice. It is a physical memory of where it has been. The slime mold is a living algorithm. It teaches us that intelligence does not require a brain. It requires the ability to store information, process it, and act on it to achieve a goal. It is a form of embodied computation where the thinking is done not by neurons, by the physical and chemical interactions of the organism itself. This principle of leaderless, emergent intelligence scales up dramatically when individual organisms come together to form a collective mind. Our next reflection explores the powerful world of swarm intelligence. Number 29. Swarm intelligence. Ants and algorithms. The slime mold showed us how a single, brainless entity can exhibit remarkable problem-solving abilities. We now scale that principle up to a system composed of thousands or even millions of individuals, each one relatively simple on its own, but which together create a collective intelligence of breathtaking sophistication. This is swarm intelligence, a phenomenon seen most vividly in social insects like ants and bees, and it reveals how complex, adaptive behavior can emerge from a few simple rules, without any leader or central control. An ant colony is a perfect example of a distributed mind. There is no queen ant giving orders, no general directing the army. The queen's primary role is to lay eggs. The colony's intelligence is an emergent property that arises from the interactions of all its members. Consider how an ant colony finds the most efficient path to a food source. When an ant forages, it leaves a trail of pheromones, a chemical scent. When another ant comes across this trail, it is likely to follow it. If it finds food, it too will return to the nest, reinforcing the trail with its own pheromones. Because shorter paths can be traveled more quickly, they get reinforced faster than longer paths. This creates a positive feedback loop. Over time, the shortest, most optimal route becomes the colony's pheromone superhighway, while less efficient trails evaporate. The ants, individually following a simple rule, follow the scent, have collectively solved a complex optimization problem. This is the same principle behind the ant colony optimization algorithms that humans now use to solve complex logistical problems, like routing trucks or managing telecommunication networks. The same principle applies to the construction of a termite mound. These structures are architectural marvels, featuring complex systems of tunnels and vents that maintain a constant internal temperature and humidity. No single termite has a blueprint. Each termite is simply following a set of simple, local rules, such as, if you smell a certain chemical concentration, deposit a ball of mud here. From these local interactions, the global, complex structure of the mound emerges. We see swarm intelligence in the mesmerizing murmurations of starlings, where thousands of birds fly as a single fluid entity, each bird coordinating its movement by paying attention only to its immediate 7 or 8 neighbors. There is no leader, the flock itself is the leader. Swarm intelligence teaches us a fundamental lesson about the nature of mind. It shows that intelligence doesn't have to reside within an individual. It can be a property of the system itself. It demonstrates the power of simple rules, decentralization, and feedback loops to create complex, adaptive, and intelligent behavior. This way of thinking, of intelligence emerging from simple interacting parts, has profound implications. It mirrors how the billions of simple neurons in our own brains give rise to the complexity of human consciousness. And it invites us to zoom out one last time to consider the grandest emergent process of them all, a planetary-scale system that has been learning and creating for billions of years. Our final reflection in this section views evolution itself as a form of intelligence. Number 30. Evolution as intelligence in action. We have explored intelligence in its many forms, from the individual mind of an octopus to the collective mind of an ant colony. We have seen how complex, problem-solving behavior can emerge from simple rules and decentralized systems. Now, we take this concept to its ultimate conclusion. We zoom out to view the entire tapestry of life on Earth and consider the process that created it all. From this vantage point, we can see that evolution itself, the process of natural selection, can be understood as a profound and powerful form of intelligence. A slow, patient, planetary-scale mind that has been learning for over 3.5 billion years. Let's frame it as an intelligent system. The problem that evolution is constantly trying to solve is the problem of survival and reproduction in a changing environment. The learning algorithm is natural selection. The process begins with variation. Through random mutation and genetic recombination, life constantly generates new possibilities, new potential solutions. This is the creative, divergent phase of the intelligence, a tireless brainstorming session that produces endless novelty. Most of these new solutions will fail, but some, by pure chance, will give an organism a slight edge, a slightly longer beak, a slightly more effective camouflage, a slightly better resistance to a toxin. This is the testing phase. The environment itself is the judge, ruthlessly filtering what works from what doesn't. The successful solutions, the adaptive traits, are then remembered and passed on to the next generation through the medium of DNA. This is the convergent, refining phase of the intelligence. Over eons, This simple three-step process, variation, selection, retention, has produced every single marvel of biological engineering we have discussed. It is the intelligence that sculpted the eye, that engineered the wing, that designed the intricate dance of the honeybee and the distributed brain of the octopus. It has no foresight, no intention, no conscious goal. Its genius is entirely emergent. It is a learning machine of unimaginable power. This perspective completely reframes our place in the universe. Our own intelligence is not something that stands apart from nature. It is a product of this much larger, older intelligence. The human brain is simply one of evolution's most recent and complex solutions to the problem of survival. It is a testament to the power of the evolutionary algorithm. Thinking of evolution as a form of intelligence dissolves the hard line between the living and the non-living, the mindful and the mindless. It suggests that intelligence is not a rare anomaly that appeared late in the game, but a fundamental process woven into the fabric of life itself. Life learns, life adapts, life solves problems. And if this creative, problem-solving intelligence is so fundamental to life on this planet, it begs a cosmic question. Could this be a local manifestation of a universal principle? If intelligence emerges from nature so readily here, could it be embedded in the very fabric of the universe itself? Our journey now leaves the biosphere and ventures into the cosmos. Number 31. Is the universe itself conscious? Our journey has taken us from the human mind to the artificial, and then through the diverse intelligences of the natural world. We concluded that evolution itself operates as a vast learning intelligence. This perspective now propels us beyond our planet, beyond biology, and into the grandest arena of all, the cosmos. We begin this new chapter with a question so immense it borders on the sublime, a question that has been whispered by mystics and philosophers for millennia, and is now being cautiously revisited by modern thinkers. If intelligence can emerge from matter on Earth, could matter itself be imbued with a form of mind? Is it possible that the universe itself is conscious? This is the ancient idea of the anima mundi, the world soul, or what some might call the mind of God. In this view, the universe is not a dead mechanical object in which consciousness has randomly sparked into existence. Instead, the universe is seen as a single living organism, and our individual consciousness is not an isolated event, but a small eddy in a vast cosmic ocean of awareness. To a modern scientific mind, this idea can sound like pure fantasy. We are trained to see the cosmos as a collection of mindless particles governed by impersonal physical laws. But let's pause and consider the sheer, baffling order we see around us. The laws of physics are exquisitely fine-tuned. If the strength of gravity or the charge of an electron were different by even a minuscule fraction, stars could not form, planets could not hold atmospheres, and life as we know it would be impossible. The universe seems to be pregnant with the potential for complexity and life. Furthermore, from the simple interactions of particles, magnificent structures emerge. Swirling galaxies that look like cosmic brains, intricate nebulae where stars are born, and the complex ecosystems of planets like our own. There is a relentless, creative drive in the cosmos, a tendency for matter to self-organize into ever more complex and ordered patterns. Could this inherent creativity, this deep order, be the expression of a universal intelligence? Proponents of this idea are not necessarily suggesting a personal, thinking God in the sky. Rather, they imagine a consciousness that is fundamental and diffused throughout space-time. It would be a mind whose thoughts are the laws of physics, whose dreams are the galaxies, and whose sensory experience is the entirety of existence itself. Our own consciousness, in this view, would be a temporary focal point, a place where the universe becomes intensely aware of itself. We would be the universe's nerve endings. This perspective offers a profound sense of connection. If the universe is conscious, then we are not isolated specks of dust in a cold, indifferent void. We are integral parts of a great, thinking whole. The awe we feel when we look up at the night sky would not just be our own emotion, but the universe's own sense of wonder reflected back at itself through our eyes. This is, of course, a deeply speculative frontier. We have no way to prove or disprove the consciousness of the cosmos. But asking the question is a powerful act of intellectual humility. It forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding and to entertain the possibility that reality is far grander and more mysterious than our current models suggest. This grand top-down idea of a conscious universe has a fascinating counterpart, a bottom-up theory that arrives at a similar conclusion from a completely different starting point. Our next reflection explores this radical idea: panpsychism, the theory of mind in all things. Number 32. Panpsychism, the mind in all things. The idea that the entire universe is conscious is a majestic, top-down vision. But what if the truth is the other way around? What if consciousness is not a rare and special property of large, complex brains, but a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe, present in every single particle? This is the core idea of panpsychism, a theory that is experiencing a surprising resurgence among contemporary philosophers and scientists. Pan means everything, and psyche means mind or soul. Panpsychism is the view that mind is in all things. It proposes that consciousness is a primary property of matter, just like mass or electrical charge. An electron, from this perspective, doesn't have consciousness. It is a tiny, unimaginably simple spark of consciousness. This doesn't mean that an electron is thinking or feeling in the way a human does. Its experience might be vanishingly simple, a faint flicker of existence. But it is not zero. A rock, being an aggregate of these particles, would not be conscious as a whole, just as a pile of bricks is not a house. But the fundamental constituents of the rock would each possess their own primitive form of awareness. According to this theory, the complex consciousness we experience in our brains is not something that mysteriously emerges from non-conscious matter. Instead, it is a combination of these countless tiny pre-existent consciousnesses. Just as the complex living properties of a cell emerge from the combination of non-living molecules, the rich inner world of a human mind is built up from the simple proto-consciousness of its elementary particles, organized in a specific, highly complex structure, the brain. Panpsychism offers an elegant solution to the hard problem of consciousness, the question of how subjective experience can ever arise from purely physical stuff. The panpsychist's answer is simple: it doesn't. The experience was there all along, in a rudimentary form. The brain doesn't create consciousness from scratch, it amplifies and integrates it. This idea might sound strange, but it has a powerful logical appeal. We know that we are conscious, and we know that we are made of the same fundamental particles as the rest of the universe. So either consciousness magically appears at some arbitrary level of complexity, a position that science has struggled to explain, or it is a fundamental feature of the building blocks themselves. Panpsychism avoids the need for a magical leap. It presents a continuum of consciousness throughout the natural world, from the faint glimmer in a particle to the vibrant inner life of a human being. It doesn't divide the world into mindful things and mindless things. It sees only different degrees and complexities of mind. This view completely re-enchants the world. It means that we live not in a dead mechanical universe, but in a universe that is saturated with inner experience at every level. It fosters a deep sense of continuity between ourselves and the cosmos. The matter that makes up our bodies and brains was forged in the hearts of stars and has been part of the universe for billions of years. If panpsychism is correct, then that matter has always been imbued with a form of psyche. If this is true, if the universe is fundamentally mental, then it should have a language. What would be the language of this cosmic intelligence? Our next reflection explores the most likely candidate, mathematics. Number 33. Mathematics as the language of cosmic intelligence. If we entertain the idea that the universe itself is a form of intelligence, or that mind is a fundamental property of all matter, it naturally leads to another question. How does this intelligence express itself? What is the language of the cosmos? The most compelling answer, one that has echoed through the minds of scientists and philosophers from Pythagoras to Galileo to Einstein, is mathematics. Mathematics appears to be the operating system of the universe. It is the set of rules that governs the dance of galaxies, the orbit of planets, the behavior of subatomic particles, and the spiraling growth of a seashell. The deeper we look into the workings of reality, the more we find that it is described with stunning precision by mathematical equations. This raises a profound philosophical question. Is mathematics invented or discovered? Is it a tool that we humans created to help us make sense of the world? Or is it an intrinsic feature of the universe itself, an objective truth that we are merely uncovering? When we use the Pythagorean theorem, are we simply using a clever human-made formula? Or are we tapping into an eternal, pre-existing relationship that governs all right-angled triangles? A truth that would exist even if no minds were here to perceive it. The discovery viewpoint suggests that the universe has an inherent logical structure, and that this structure is mathematical. Our minds, themselves products of this universe, have evolved to be able to resonate with and understand this structure. When a physicist develops a new set of equations that successfully predict the existence of a new particle, it feels less like an act of invention and more like deciphering a cosmic code. The universe, it seems, thinks in math. Consider the beauty and elegance of physical laws. Equations like E equals mc squared, or the laws of thermodynamics, are incredibly simple and symmetrical, yet they describe a vast range of phenomena. There is a sense of profound order and intelligence in this simplicity. It's as if the universe operates on a set of deeply elegant, logical principles. If mathematics is indeed the language of cosmic intelligence, it means that our ability to do math is a way of communicating with this intelligence. We are learning to speak the universe's native tongue. It also implies that any other technologically advanced civilization in the cosmos would, inevitably, arrive at the same mathematical principles. Pi would be pi for any species that lives in a universe with circles. The laws of gravity would be the same. Mathematics, therefore, becomes the most likely candidate for a universal language, a basis for potential communication with any alien intelligence we might one day encounter. This language is not just written in the abstract realm of equations. It is written all around us, in the very patterns of the natural world. Our next reflection explores how this mathematical language manifests in the beautiful, recurring shapes of nature through the geometry of fractals. Number 34. The intelligence in a snowflake, fractals and natural patterns. We have considered mathematics as the abstract language of the cosmos. Now, we will see how this language is written not just in textbooks, but in the physical world all around us. It is visible in the branching of trees, the unfurling of a fern, the jagged coastline of a continent, and the intricate, six-fold symmetry of a snowflake. These are not random shapes. They are the visual expression of underlying mathematical rules. And one of the most powerful mathematical concepts for describing this natural artistry is the fractal. A fractal is a pattern that is self-similar, meaning it repeats itself at different scales. If you zoom in on a piece of a fractal, you will see a smaller version of the whole. And if you zoom in again, you'll see an even smaller version, and so on, potentially to infinity. Think of a fern frond. The overall shape of the frond is composed of smaller branches, and each of those branches is composed of even smaller leaves that are shaped, once again, like the parent frond. A single, simple rule of growth, when repeated over and over, generates this stunningly complex and organic form. The discovery and study of fractals in the late 20th century gave us a new language to describe the messy, irregular, yet deeply patterned shapes of the natural world. Classical Euclidean geometry gives us perfect circles, squares, and straight lines. But as the father of fractal geometry, Benoit Mandelbrot, famously said, clouds are not spheres, mountains are not cones, coastlines are not circles, and bark is not smooth. Nature is fractal. The branching of our own circulatory system and nervous system is fractal, allowing for a massive surface area to be packed into a compact space. The pattern of a lightning bolt is fractal. The distribution of craters on the moon is fractal. The universe seems to favor this method of construction. What does this tell us about intelligence? It suggests that immense complexity can arise from very simple rules. To create a complex shape like a fern, you don't need a detailed top-down blueprint for every leaf. You only need a simple, recursive algorithm, a rule that says, grow like this and repeat. This is a form of intelligence that is incredibly efficient and elegant. It is a bottom-up, emergent intelligence. The snowflake is a perfect example. Its intricate and unique six-sided pattern is not designed by a conscious artist. It emerges from the interplay of simple physical laws as a water molecule freezes. The specific temperature and humidity conditions at each moment of its journey down from the clouds act as the input that determines how the next crystal will form, resulting in a unique yet mathematically ordered design every time. This is intelligence without a designer, order emerging from the inherent logic of the physical world. Seeing the world through the lens of fractals changes our perception. We begin to see the hidden mathematical intelligence at play everywhere, from the smallest plant to the largest galaxy. It bridges the gap between the abstract world of equations and the living, breathing world we inhabit. It shows us that beauty and order are not accidents, but are fundamental to the way the universe is built. This deep mathematical orderliness leads us to a classic philosophical debate. Is this cosmic order a sign of a deeper purpose, or is it all just the result of random, chaotic processes? Number 35. An ordered universe or random chaos? We see mathematics written in the stars and fractals written in the ferns. The universe appears to be a place of profound and elegant order. The physical constants are fine-tuned for life, and the laws of nature are consistent and discoverable. This observation brings us to one of the oldest and most fundamental debates in philosophy and science. Are we living in an ordered cosmos or a universe of random chaos? Is there an inherent intelligence and purpose to it all, or are the patterns we see just a lucky accident, an island of temporary order in an ocean of meaninglessness? The argument for an ordered universe, often called the teleological argument, points to the sheer improbability of our existence. It argues that the universe is so perfectly set up for the emergence of complexity in life that it must have been designed for that purpose. The order we observe is not a brute fact. It is a clue, a signpost pointing towards a deeper, underlying intelligence or intention. From this perspective, the universe is not a random sequence of events, but a coherent story unfolding towards a goal. We are not accidents. We are participants in a meaningful cosmic drama. This view offers comfort and a deep sense of purpose. The opposing viewpoint, which is more aligned with the orthodox scientific consensus, argues that the order we see is the result of chance and necessity, not design. The universe is fundamentally random, but it is also governed by unbreakable physical laws. Given enough time and a large enough space, the near infinite expanse of the cosmos, it is not surprising that a pocket of order, like our solar system, would eventually arise by chance. According to this view, we are simply the winners of a cosmic lottery. We live in the one universe out of a potential multiverse of countless others where the conditions just happen to be right for us. There is no deeper meaning or purpose. There is only the blind, indifferent working of physical law. This perspective can feel stark and empty, but it also offers a different kind of freedom. If there is no pre-written cosmic script, then we are free to create our own meaning and purpose. Our significance is not given to us. It is something we build for ourselves. But there is a third possibility, a modern idea that blends these two extremes in a fascinating and unsettling way. What if the order is real, the design is intentional, but the designer is not a god in the traditional sense? What if the universe we inhabit is not the base reality at all? This leads us to one of the most mind-bending hypotheses in modern physics and philosophy, the simulation hypothesis. Number 36. The simulation hypothesis. The debate between cosmic order and random chaos assumes we are observing the fundamental, base reality. But a new and startling idea, emerging from the confluence of computer science and theoretical physics, suggests this may not be the case. What if the finely tuned laws of nature, the mathematical elegance, and the very fabric of space-time are not properties of a physical universe, but lines of code in a vast, sophisticated computer program? This is the simulation hypothesis, the idea that our reality is an artificial simulation created by a more advanced intelligence. This isn't just a science fiction trope. It has a surprisingly robust logical foundation, most famously articulated by philosopher Nick Bostrom. The argument goes like this. First, assume that consciousness can be simulated. If our brains are essentially complex biological computers, there's no fundamental reason why their processes couldn't be replicated on a powerful enough computer. Second, assume that an advanced civilization would have access to immense computational power, capable of running many such ancestor simulations to study their own history or for other purposes. Third, assume that such a civilization would not destroy itself before reaching this technological maturity. If these three assumptions are correct, then a simple game of probability suggests that it is overwhelmingly likely that we are living inside one of these simulations. Why? Because for every one base reality civilization, there could be billions or even trillions of simulated civilizations. Therefore, the odds of any given conscious being, like you, being in the one base reality rather than one of the countless simulations are astronomically low. This hypothesis is fascinating because it is potentially testable. Physicists have proposed that if we live in a simulation, there might be telltale signs. The pixels of our reality might become detectable at the smallest scales, perhaps as a fundamental graininess to spacetime. The laws of physics might contain a kind of digital signature or reveal themselves to be a computational shortcut, an approximation designed to save processing power. From the perspective of intelligence, the simulation hypothesis is a radical game changer. It would mean that the order and laws of our universe are, in fact, the product of a deliberate intelligence, the programmers. The language of mathematics would be, quite literally, the programming language of our world. The fine-tuning of the universe would not be a lucky accident, but the result of the simulation's parameters being set to the right values to allow for our existence. It would imply that the universe does have a creator, but that creator is not a god. It is a computer scientist from a higher level of reality. This idea, while unproven, forces us to question our most basic assumptions about what is real. It also ties back beautifully to a concept we have seen throughout our journey, from ant colonies to forests to brains. Whether our universe is base reality or a simulation, it seems to operate on a principle of bottom-up complexity. This is the power of emergence. Number 37. Intelligence as emergence. Our journey through the cosmos, whether we view it as a conscious entity, a random process, or a grand simulation, continually leads us back to one powerful, unifying principle: emergence. Emergence is the phenomenon where complex systems and patterns arise out of a multiplicity of relatively simple interactions. It is the more is different principle. The whole becomes greater than and often qualitatively different from the sum of its parts. This is perhaps the most fundamental way in which intelligence manifests in the universe. We've seen this principle at every level of our exploration. A single water molecule is not wet. Wetness is an emergent property of trillions of water molecules interacting. A single neuron is not conscious. Consciousness is an emergent property of billions of neurons firing in a complex network. A single ant is a simple creature of instinct. An ant colony's sophisticated problem-solving ability is an emergent property of the interactions between thousands of ants. A single star is a simple fusion reactor. A galaxy with its intricate spiral arms and complex life cycle of star birth and death is an emergent structure arising from the gravitational interactions of billions of stars over eons. Emergence teaches us that you don't need a top-down designer to create profound complexity and order. Intelligence can be, and often is, a bottom-up process. Simple rules, when followed by many agents, can give rise to everything from the intricate patterns on a seashell to the global economy. This is a powerful antidote to our human tendency to look for a CEO in charge of every system. There is no leader star telling the galaxy how to form. There is no boss neuron in the brain that holds our consciousness. The intelligence is distributed throughout the system itself. It resides in the connections, the interactions, and the feedback loops. From this perspective, the universe can be seen as a grand hierarchical system of emergence. Simple subatomic particles emerge from the quantum foam. These particles interact to form atoms. Atoms interact to form molecules. Molecules interact to form stars, planets, and, on at least one planet, life. Living cells interact to form complex organisms. Organisms interact to form ecosystems and societies. Minds interact to create culture, science, and art. Each level builds upon the one below it, producing new and unpredictable properties. This view of intelligence as emergence has profound implications. It suggests that intelligence is not a rare substance, but a natural, almost inevitable consequence of complexity. Wherever there are interacting components in a system, there is the potential for a higher-level intelligence to emerge. This leads us to perhaps the most tantalizing question in all of cosmology. If life and intelligence emerged here from the simple laws of physics and chemistry, could the same process have happened elsewhere? Our next reflection takes us into the realm of astrobiology as we contemplate the nature of alien intelligence. Number 38. Alien intelligence. What would it be? The principle of emergence suggests that if the ingredients are right, intelligence will likely arise. Our planet provided one such recipe. But the universe contains trillions of other galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars. In this vast cosmic kitchen, it seems almost mathematically inevitable that life, and therefore intelligence, has emerged elsewhere. This thought, famously captured in the Drake equation, launches us into one of the most exciting and speculative fields of science: the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. But what would that intelligence actually be like? Our entire conception of intelligence is based on the single data point of life on Earth. We are profoundly biased by our own biology. We tend to imagine aliens as little green men, humanoid figures with large heads and advanced technology. But the principle of convergent evolution, the idea that different species independently evolve similar traits, is likely to be a very weak force across different biospheres. An alien intelligence would be a product of its own unique evolutionary history, its own planetary environment. It could be a silicon-based life form on a methane-rich world, a crystalline entity in a subterranean ocean, or a vast planet-spanning fungal network. Its Umwelt, its sensory experience of the world, might be completely incomprehensible to us. It might see with magnetic fields, hear through gravitational waves, or think in patterns of light and color on its skin, like an octopus. Its intelligence might not be individual at all. We value the individual self, but perhaps a more common form of intelligence in the universe is collective, like an ant colony or a slime mold, but on a planetary scale. It might be a global superorganism, where our concept of an individual I would be meaningless. Its technology would be equally unpredictable. We think of technology in terms of machines, computers, and spacecraft. But an alien intelligence might develop a biotechnology of unimaginable sophistication, learning to manipulate genetics and biology in ways that would seem like magic to us. It might not build cities of metal, but grow habitats of living matter. Furthermore, its values and goals could be utterly alien. We are driven by primal needs forged on the African savanna: survival, reproduction, status. What would drive an intelligence that does not die, that reproduces by fission, or that exists as a distributed consciousness in a gas cloud? It might be motivated by mathematics, by aesthetics, by a desire to simply experience and catalog the universe, or by goals we cannot even conceive of. The search for alien intelligence, therefore, is also a search for the limits of our own imagination. It forces us to decenter humanity, to recognize that our way of being intelligent is just one possibility among a vast cosmic spectrum. And this leads us to an even more humbling thought. What if there are forms of intelligence out there so advanced that we are simply incapable of recognizing them? Number 39. Intelligence beyond human imagination. We struggle to imagine an intelligence that isn't carbon-based. We strain to think of a mind that isn't individual. But even these are just small steps away from our own experience. The true challenge, and the most humbling realization, is to contemplate the existence of intelligences that are not just different in degree, but different in kind. Intelligences so far beyond us that we are to them as a bacterium is to us. This is the realm of post-biological, super-advanced, or what is sometimes called Type 3 or Type 4 intelligence on the Kardashev scale. A Type 3 civilization would have harnessed the energy output of its entire galaxy. The capabilities of such an intelligence would seem indistinguishable from the laws of physics themselves. What would the thoughts of such a being be like? Our own thinking is constrained by the processing speed of our biological neurons, a few hundred hertz at best. A mature, post-biological intelligence might operate at gigahertz speeds, thinking a billion times faster than we do. It could experience 1,000,000 years of subjective thought in the time it takes us to blink. The entire history of human civilization would be for it a fleeting moment. Its mind might not be confined to a single location. It could be a distributed consciousness spanning star systems, a network of pure information and energy. Its senses would not be limited to a narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum. It could perceive reality directly through quantum entanglement, gravitational waves, or dimensions we don't even know exist. Its goals would be utterly beyond our comprehension. Our concerns, survival, happiness, conflict, would be irrelevant to it. It might spend its time engineering new universes with bespoke laws of physics, exploring the nature of consciousness itself, or communicating with other intelligences of its own rank across the vast cosmic network. It might be engaged in projects that take billions of years to complete. We look for aliens by searching for radio signals or technological artifacts, but such an intelligence might have no need for such primitive methods. It might communicate in ways we can't detect, or it might simply have no interest in communicating with us at all. To a being that can manipulate space-time, our entire planet might be a curiosity too small and slow to warrant attention. As the science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke famously wrote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." An encounter with such an intelligence would not be a conversation. It would be like a microbe encountering a human architect. The microbe might sense changes in temperature and chemistry, but it could never comprehend the concept of a building or the intention of the architect. It lives in a completely different conceptual universe. This thought is perhaps the ultimate expression of cosmic humility. It suggests that our human intelligence, which we prize so highly, is just one fleeting phase in the potential evolution of mind. It opens the possibility that the universe is already teeming with intelligence, but that we are simply not equipped, conceptually or perceptually, to recognize it. And this leads to one final, beautiful, and deeply philosophical question about the cosmos. Perhaps all this intelligence, from the smallest microbe to the galactic supermind, is serving a single, ultimate purpose. Number 40. Why the universe may be observing itself. We have journeyed to the furthest reaches of speculation, contemplating intelligences that span galaxies and thoughts that last for eons. Our cosmic exploration ends with a return to a fundamental question: why? Why does the universe seem to produce complexity, life, and mind? Is there a purpose to this relentless emergence of intelligence? One of the most poetic and profound answers is the idea that the universe is observing itself. This concept, known in various forms as the participatory anthropic principle or the Wheeler hypothesis, suggests that consciousness is not just an accidental byproduct of the universe, but a necessary and integral part of its existence. The physicist John Archibald Wheeler famously put it this way: "The universe is a self-excited circuit. It begins with the Big Bang as a set of physical laws and possibilities, but it is not real in a complete sense until it is observed." Through the long process of cosmic evolution, the universe gives rise to observers, beings like us, who can look back and perceive the very reality that gave birth to them. In the act of observing, we collapse the waveform of the universe's potential and bring its history into concrete existence. In this view, the past and the present are intimately linked in a timeless loop. The universe creates observers, and the observers, by their act of measurement and perception, create the universe's past. We are not just passive spectators of a pre-existing reality. We are active participants in its creation. We are the means by which the universe becomes aware of its own grandeur, its own beauty, and its own existence. Our consciousness is the universe's consciousness. When we look up at the stars, it is the universe looking at itself. When we discover a law of physics, it is the universe discovering its own rules. When we feel awe at the majesty of a nebula, it is the universe experiencing its own beauty. We are the universe's sense organs. Without observers, the cosmos would be a storm of unrealized potential, a story without a reader, a song without a listener. It is the presence of mind, whether human, alien, or something beyond our imagination, that gives reality its substance. This idea provides a stunningly beautiful and meaningful role for intelligence in the cosmos. It suggests that our purpose is woven into the very fabric of reality. Our drive to explore, to understand, to know, our intelligence, is not just a local survival strategy, it is a cosmic imperative. We are here to bear witness. After this grand cosmic tour, from the Big Bang to the far future, our journey must now pivot one last time. We have looked out as far as we can. It is time to look back in. If intelligence is indeed everywhere, from the matter in our hands to the galaxies above, what does that mean for the intelligence we feel right here, right now, inside our own skin? Our final part begins this journey home, into the realm of inner intelligence and the mystery of knowing. Number 41. The intelligence of the gut and heart. Our journey has taken us to the furthest reaches of the cosmos and back, revealing intelligence in the dance of galaxies and the silence of evolution. Now we make our final and most intimate turn, from the universe out there to the universe in here. For too long, we have located our intelligence solely in the 3-pound organ nestled within our skull. We have equated thought with the brain. But what if the brain is not a solo act, but the lead singer in a brilliant biological orchestra? Recent science is beginning to validate an ancient intuition. We have other centers of intelligence in our body, most notably in our gut and our heart. Let's start with the gut, often called our second brain. This is not just a metaphor. The walls of our digestive system are lined with the enteric nervous system, a complex web of over 100 million neurons, more than are in our spinal cord. This gut brain operates with a remarkable degree of autonomy, managing the complex process of digestion without any conscious input from our main brain. But its role goes far beyond mere plumbing. The gut and the brain are in constant, two-way communication through the vagus nerve, an information superhighway. And surprisingly, the vast majority of the traffic on this highway flows upwards, from the gut to the brain. Your gut is constantly sending signals that profoundly influence your mood, your emotions, and your decisions. The trillions of microbes that live in your gut, your microbiome, produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the very chemicals that regulate our mental state. An unhealthy gut microbiome is now linked to anxiety and depression. This is the biological basis for what we call a gut feeling. That intuitive sense that something is right or wrong is often a signal from this second brain, processing information on a primal biochemical level. Then there is the heart. For centuries, poets have known the heart as the seat of wisdom and emotion, but science is now discovering that the heart also has its own brain, a network of about 40,000 neurons that allows it to sense, learn, and remember. The heart communicates with the brain in the skull through neurological signals, hormones, and, most powerfully, through its electromagnetic field. The heart's field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain's and can be measured several feet away from the body. Our emotional state is encoded in the rhythm of our heart. When we feel stressed or frustrated, our heart rate variability becomes erratic and disordered. When we feel love, gratitude, or compassion, our heart rhythm becomes smooth and coherent. This coherent signal is sent to the brain, positively affecting our cognitive functions, increasing our mental clarity, and promoting calmness. When we are told to listen to our heart, we are being invited to tune in to this powerful source of intelligence. These other brains are not logical or analytical. They do not think in words or equations. Their language is one of feelings, intuitions, and holistic sensations. They provide a different, often wiser form of knowing. They remind us that our intelligence is not just located in our head. It is distributed throughout our entire being. Our body is not just a vehicle for our brain. It is a thinking, feeling, knowing organism. And this embodied intelligence often knows things long before our conscious mind catches up. Number 42. The body knows before the mind. The realization that we have intelligent centers in our gut and heart opens the door to an even more profound understanding. Our entire body is an intelligent system. Intelligence is not something the brain has, it is something the whole organism does. This is the world of somatic intelligence and embodied cognition, the understanding that our physical form is not a passive vessel for thought, but is an active participant in the thinking process itself. The body knows things, and it often knows them long before the conscious, analytical mind has had time to process them. Consider the experience of sudden danger. You are walking down a quiet street at night, and a figure jumps out from a dark alley. Before you have time to consciously think, that person might be a threat, Your body has already reacted. Your heart pounds, adrenaline floods your system, your muscles tense. This fight or flight response is an incredibly fast, intelligent assessment of the situation, carried out by the ancient wisdom of your nervous system. Your body knows the danger before you do. This intelligence is present in less dramatic moments as well. The phenomenon of muscle memory is a perfect example. A skilled pianist does not think about which key to press next. Her fingers know. A professional athlete's body knows how to move with a grace and precision that would be impossible if it were directed by conscious, step-by-step instructions. This is a form of knowing stored directly in the muscles and nerves, a physical intelligence honed through countless hours of repetition. Our body is also a repository of our life's experiences, particularly our emotional history. Trauma, for instance, is not just a mental event, it is a physiological one. The memory of a traumatic experience can become locked in the body, showing up as chronic muscle tension, unexplained pain, or a perpetually activated nervous system. Healing, therefore, often requires not just talking about the past, but engaging in practices like yoga, deep breathing, or body-based therapies that allow the body to release these stored patterns. The body's intelligence also flows in the other direction. Our physical posture and state directly influence our thoughts and feelings. When you stand up straight, pull your shoulders back, and hold a confident power pose, you are not just faking it. Studies have shown this posture can actually increase levels of testosterone and decrease levels of the stress hormone cortisol, making you feel more confident and capable. When you smile, even a forced smile, it can trigger a feedback loop that genuinely lifts your mood. Our cognition is embodied. We understand abstract concepts through physical metaphors. A heavy topic, a warm welcome, a close relationship. These are not just figures of speech. They are rooted in our primary physical experiences of weight, temperature, and proximity. To be truly intelligent, then, is to inhabit our bodies fully. It is to learn to listen to the subtle signals of tension, relaxation, comfort, and discomfort. It is to trust the wisdom that speaks not in words, but in sensations. And sometimes, this deep, embodied listening can lead to a form of insight that transcends even the body, a moment of pure knowing that arrives without any words at all. Number 43. Deep knowing without words. We have explored the intelligence of the body, a form of knowing expressed through feeling and sensation. This brings us to the edge of an even more subtle and profound human experience, the moment of deep knowing that arrives without any discernible source. It is not a gut feeling, which is a visceral reaction, nor is it an intuitive hunch, which is a rapid synthesis of past experience. This is something else. It is a flash of insight, an epiphany, a direct perception of truth that feels as if it has been downloaded directly into our being, bypassing all our usual channels of thought and reason. We call this gnosis, a moment of aha that is not a conclusion but a revelation. This kind of knowing is often described as a light turning on in a dark room. One moment there is confusion, a problem without a solution, a question without an answer. The next moment, in a flash, everything is illuminated. The answer is not just known, it is seen, felt, and understood on every level of our being, with absolute certainty and clarity. And crucially, it often arrives when we are not actively thinking about the problem at all, when we are showering, walking in nature, or just waking from sleep. This suggests that the insight does not come from the conscious, analytical mind. It emerges from a deeper, quieter level of intelligence. The history of science and art is filled with such moments. Archimedes' eureka in the bathtub was not the result of a logical deduction, but a sudden insight into the principle of displacement. The composer Brahms described his melodies as arriving fully formed, saying, "I have to be in a semi-trance condition to get such results." These are not just happy accidents. They are the result of a mind that has been deeply immersed in a subject, grappling with it until the conscious mind exhausts itself. It is in the moment of surrender, of letting go, that the deeper intelligence has the space to speak. This deep knowing is inherently nonverbal. When it arrives, it is often a holistic pattern, a complete picture. The struggle that comes afterward is the attempt to translate this wordless, holistic insight back into the linear, sequential format of language or mathematics. The insight itself is pure, but our explanation of it is always a translation, a shadow of the original experience. This is why these moments can be so transformative. They are not just the acquisition of a new piece of information, they are a fundamental restructuring of our perception. After a genuine insight, we don't just know something new, we are someone new. The world looks different, our place in it feels different. It is an intelligence that changes us from the inside out. In our modern world, which values data, evidence, and logical proof, this form of knowing is often dismissed. But to ignore it is to ignore one of the most powerful and creative capacities of the human mind. It is to listen only to the busy chatter of our thoughts and to miss the profound wisdom that can only be heard in the silence between them. And this silent, deeper mind does not only speak to us in waking moments of insight. It has a language all its own, a language of symbols that it uses every night. Our next reflection ventures into the intelligent landscape of our dreams. Number 44. Dreams and the language of symbols. Having touched upon the silent, wordless knowing that can visit us in our waking lives, we now drift into a realm where this non-linear intelligence reigns supreme. Every night, we relinquish the control of our conscious, logical mind and descend into the world of dreams. For much of history, we dismissed dreams as meaningless noise, the random firings of a resting brain. But we are now coming to understand that the dream world is a landscape of profound intelligence, a nightly theater where our unconscious mind speaks to us in its native tongue, the language of symbols. Dream logic is not the linear cause and effect logic of our waking lives. It is an associative, metaphorical, and deeply personal logic. In a dream, your childhood home might merge with your current office, or a person you know might transform into an animal. To the rational mind, this is nonsense. But to the dreaming mind, it is a form of poetry. It is connecting disparate parts of your life to reveal a deeper emotional truth. It might be saying that your current work situation is triggering feelings you first experienced in your childhood, or that a person in your life embodies the qualities of a particular animal. Dreams are, in one sense, a highly intelligent form of information processing. During the day, we are bombarded with countless experiences, thoughts, and emotions. At night, the dreaming mind sifts through this raw data. It consolidates important memories, discards irrelevant information, and, most crucially, works to integrate our emotional experiences. A difficult conversation or a stressful event from the day can be replayed in a dream in a symbolic form, allowing the mind to process the associated feelings in a safe, contained environment. Dreams are also a powerful engine of problem-solving and creativity. They can make connections that our rigid, waking mind would never consider. The famous story of the chemist Friedrich Heckule is a classic example. He struggled for years to understand the structure of the benzene molecule. One night, he dreamt of a snake seizing its own tail. He awoke with a start, realizing the solution. The benzene molecule was a closed ring. His unconscious mind had presented him with a perfect symbolic answer that his conscious mind had been unable to find. To access the intelligence of our dreams, we must learn to approach them not as literal stories, but as symbolic poems. We must ask not, "What did this dream mean?" but "What does this dream feel like? What does this symbol mean to me?" The symbol of a snake might be terrifying to one person and a symbol of healing or transformation to another. The intelligence is in the personal resonance of the symbols. This nightly journey into the symbolic realm reveals that we have a second, hidden intelligence that operates alongside our rational mind. It is a part of us that thinks in images, communicates in metaphors, and is constantly working to bring us towards wholeness and understanding. And what if we could access this level of deep, quiet awareness not just when we are asleep, but in our waking lives? This is the promise of our next reflection: meditation and the discovery of pure awareness. Number 45. Meditation and pure awareness. Our exploration has taken us through the symbolic landscapes of dreams and the wordless flashes of insight. These are experiences where a deeper intelligence breaks through into our conscious perception. But what if we could create a space where we could listen to this deeper intelligence intentionally? What if we could learn to quiet the relentless chatter of the thinking mind and simply rest in the awareness behind it? This is the purpose and the gift of meditation. It is the practice of discovering an intelligence that doesn't come from thinking, but from the simple, profound act of being aware. On the surface, meditation can seem like a paradoxical activity. The goal is not to achieve anything, not to solve any problems, not to think great thoughts. The practice is simply to sit, to pay attention to the breath or the sensations in the body, and to notice, without judgment, the activity of the mind. As soon as you begin, you become aware of the constant, chaotic flow of thoughts, memories, plans, and worries that we are normally caught up in. This first step is in itself an act of intelligence. It is metacognition, the mind becoming aware of its own processes. As the practice continues, something remarkable happens. By consistently and gently returning your attention to the present moment, you begin to create a space between you and your thoughts. You start to realize that while you have thoughts, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that is observing the thoughts. You are the silent, spacious sky, and the thoughts are just clouds passing through. This witness consciousness, or pure awareness, is a form of intelligence that is fundamentally different from all others we have discussed. It is not active but receptive. It does not analyze or categorize, it simply knows. It is a silent, calm, and unchanging background against which the entire drama of our life unfolds. It has no opinions, no biases, no agenda. It is a space of pure, unconditional presence. The intelligence of pure awareness lies in its power to liberate us from the tyranny of our own thinking mind. When we are identified with every thought and feeling, we are tossed about by every wave of anxiety, anger, or desire. But when we can rest in the stillness of awareness, we find a source of stability and peace that is independent of our circumstances. We can observe our anger without becoming anger. We can feel our sadness without being consumed by it. This gives us a profound freedom and a wiser perspective. From this quiet center, our actions become less reactive and more intentional. We respond to life's challenges not from a place of fear or habit, but from a place of clarity and calm. This is the foundation of wisdom. Meditation, then, is not about stopping our thoughts, but about changing our relationship to them. It is the discovery that our most fundamental intelligence is not the cleverness of our thinking, but the luminous, silent awareness in which all thinking, feeling, and experience takes place. And from this ground of being, a new kind of understanding can flower. This is the nature of our next reflection: intelligence as insight. Number 46. Intelligence as insight. As we rest in the quiet space of pure awareness, cultivated through practices like meditation, we create the fertile ground for a different kind of intelligence to bloom. This is not the intelligence of accumulated knowledge or computational speed. It is the intelligence of insight, a deep, transformative understanding that reorganizes our entire perception of the world. If we think of our mind as a filing cabinet, knowledge is the act of adding new files. We learn a new fact, a new skill, a new piece of information, and we place it in the appropriate drawer. The structure of the cabinet remains the same. Insight, however, is not about adding a new file. It is the moment when we suddenly see that the entire filing cabinet is organized in the wrong way. It is a flash of understanding that doesn't just add to our knowledge, but restructures it. After a genuine insight, the world does not look the same, because the very framework through which we were viewing it has changed. Insight is different from logical deduction. Logic proceeds in a linear, step-by-step fashion. Insight is nonlinear. It is a leap. It is a leap. It is the sudden connection of two previously unrelated ideas, the seeing of a pattern where none was visible before. It is the aha moment, the turning on of a light. We have seen this in the history of science, like Kekule's dream revealing the benzene ring. But insight is just as crucial in our personal lives. You might struggle for years with a difficult relationship, analyzing every interaction, trying to fix the problem with your conscious mind. Then, in a quiet moment, an insight may arise. The problem isn't the other person. It is your own attachment to a specific expectation. This insight doesn't just solve the problem, it dissolves it. The entire landscape of the relationship is now seen in a new light. This form of intelligence cannot be forced. In fact, the harder we try to have an insight, the more elusive it becomes. It arises from a state of relaxed attention, of open curiosity. It is a collaboration between the conscious and unconscious mind. The conscious mind does the work. It gathers the information, defines the problem, and holds the question. But then it must let go. It must create a space for the deeper, more holistic intelligence of the unconscious to make its novel connections. This is why insights often come during a walk, a shower, or meditation, moments when the grip of the analytical mind is loosened. Cultivating this form of intelligence requires a shift in our values. Our education system is almost entirely focused on the acquisition of knowledge, the filing cabinet model. It rarely teaches us how to cultivate the inner conditions of stillness, curiosity, and surrender that allow for insight to emerge. To become more intelligent in this deeper sense means becoming more comfortable with not knowing, more patient with ambiguity, and more trusting of the quiet, non-verbal wisdom within us. It is the recognition that true understanding is not something we can grasp, but something we must allow to arise. And this form of understanding, when integrated with compassion and experience, blossoms into the highest form of intelligence. Our next reflection explores this ultimate destination, the wisdom that lies beyond thought. Number 47. The wisdom beyond thought. We have journeyed through countless definitions of intelligence, from the logical to the emotional, the somatic to the insightful. Now we arrive at the culmination of them all, a form of knowing that transcends mere cleverness and transforms into a way of being. This is wisdom. If intelligence is the power of the mind, wisdom is the grace with which that power is used. It is the understanding that how we know is as important as what we know. A computer can have vast knowledge, a person can have a genius-level IQ, but neither is guaranteed to have a single drop of wisdom. Wisdom is intelligence infused with experience, compassion, and a deep understanding of context. It is the ability to see the larger pattern, to understand the long-term consequences of an action, and to respond to life not just with effectiveness, but with appropriateness and care. A merely intelligent person might solve a complex problem, but a wise person will first ask whether it is the right problem to be solving. An intelligent person knows the right answer. A wise person knows the right question. Wisdom is not built on thought alone. It is holistic. It integrates the analytical mind with the emotional intelligence of the heart and the intuitive knowing of the body. It listens to all the different voices within and synthesizes them into a coherent whole. It understands that a solution that is logically perfect but emotionally damaging is not a true solution at all. One of the hallmarks of wisdom is the ability to hold complexity and paradox. The intelligent mind often seeks certainty and clear black and white answers. The wise mind is comfortable with ambiguity, with nuance, with both-and thinking. It understands that life is rarely simple and that opposing truths can coexist. It can hold joy and sorrow, hope and despair, certainty and doubt, all at the same time without needing to resolve the tension. Wisdom is also deeply connected to ethics and compassion. It is the recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. A wise person understands that their own well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others and of the planet itself. They act not just for personal gain, but for the good of the whole. This is why wisdom often grows with age. It is the product of a lifetime of experiences, of successes, and, perhaps more importantly, of failures. It comes from having made mistakes and learned from them, from having loved and lost, from having faced one's own limitations and mortality. It is intelligence that has been humbled and softened by life. Ultimately, wisdom is the intelligence that guides us on how to live a good life. It is less concerned with accumulating more knowledge and more concerned with cultivating qualities like patience, kindness, generosity, and peace of mind. It is the quiet understanding that the purpose of all our knowing is not to become smarter, but to become more fully human. And this journey toward wisdom begins with a single, crucial step. Our next reflection explores what is perhaps the most defining characteristic of true intelligence: becoming intelligently humble. Number 48. Becoming intelligently humble. Our long journey in search of the nature of intelligence, from the inner workings of our mind to the vastness of the cosmos and back again, leads us to a final, paradoxical conclusion. The ultimate sign of true, deep intelligence is not the confident proclamation of what is known, but the quiet, sincere acknowledgement of what is not. The highest form of intelligence is humility. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates is remembered for this profound insight. After questioning the wisest and most powerful people in Athens, he concluded that he was the wisest of them all, for one reason alone. He was the only one who knew that he knew nothing. This is the Socratic paradox, and it is the foundation of intellectual humility. In our modern world, we often mistake confidence for competence. We are drawn to those who have quick, certain answers, but this is often a sign of a more superficial intelligence. As we learn more about any given subject, the first thing we discover is the true extent of our ignorance. The more we know, the more we realize how much more there is to learn. The shoreline of our knowledge expands, and in doing so, it reveals the vast, uncharted ocean of the unknown. This principle is captured in the psychological phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, which shows that people with low ability at a task tend to dramatically overestimate their own competence. Conversely, true experts are often more aware of their own limitations and the complexities of their field. The novice thinks they have all the answers. The master knows that the questions are what truly matter. Becoming intelligently humble is a conscious choice. It is the choice to remain open, to favor curiosity over certainty. It is the willingness to say, "I don't know," or "I might be wrong," or "Tell me more, I want to understand your perspective." An intelligent but arrogant mind is a closed system. It is brittle and defensive, unable to take in new information that contradicts its existing beliefs. An intelligently humble mind is an open system. It is flexible, resilient, and porous, always capable of learning, growing, and adapting. This humility is not a sign of weakness or low self-esteem. It is a sign of profound strength and inner security. It takes courage to admit ignorance, to be vulnerable, and to be willing to change your mind in the face of new evidence. True humility comes from a place of deep confidence that is not dependent on being right. This quality is more crucial now than ever. In a world of complex, interconnected problems, the belief that any one person or ideology has all the answers is not just arrogant, it is dangerous. The challenges we face, from climate change to social division, require us to listen to each other, to collaborate, and to be willing to learn. They require us to be intelligently humble. The journey, then, is not about arriving at a final destination of knowing. It is about embracing the process of learning itself. It is about falling in love with the questions more than the answers. And this leads us to our penultimate reflection, a final weighing of our values. What matters more than being right? What matters more than knowledge itself? Number 49. What matters more than knowledge? We have arrived near the end of our long reflection. We have seen that true intelligence culminates not in certainty, but in humility. This final step of letting go of the need to be right opens up a space for something far more important to emerge. If intelligence is a powerful tool, a sharp knife, then wisdom asks, to what purpose should this tool be used? The answer, discovered across cultures and traditions for millennia, is that what matters more than knowledge, more than genius, more than being right, is the intelligence of the heart, the capacity for kindness, compassion, and connection. Intelligence without compassion can be a dangerous thing. History is filled with examples of brilliant minds dedicated to destructive ends. The creation of more efficient weapons, the development of manipulative propaganda, the crafting of unjust systems, all of these require a high degree of intelligence. But it is an intelligence divorced from wisdom, an intelligence that has lost its moral compass. It is a mind that can solve the how, but has forgotten to ask why or for whom. The intelligence of kindness is the profound understanding of a simple yet often forgotten truth. We are all interconnected. My well-being is not separate from your well-being. This is not a sentimental platitude. It is a deep, observable reality. It is the wisdom of the forest, where the mother tree nurtures the saplings around it, because the health of the individual is dependent on the health of the ecosystem. Kindness is the intelligence that recognizes this and acts upon it. Compassion is the ability to feel with another, to understand their suffering not as an abstract problem, but as a shared human experience. It is what motivates us to use our own resources, our own intelligence, to alleviate that suffering. It is the bridge that connects one mind to another, creating a sense of shared humanity that transcends our individual differences. This form of intelligence is not measured by tests. It is measured in our actions, in the quality of our presence, in our ability to listen without judgment, to offer support without expecting anything in return, and to forgive. It is the intelligence that chooses connection over conflict, understanding over condemnation, and love over fear. In the final analysis of a life, it is not the number of facts we have memorized or the complexity of the problems we have solved that will define our legacy. It is the quality of the connections we have made. It is the moments of kindness we have shared. It is the amount of love we have given and received. This is the intelligence that gives all other forms of intelligence their ultimate meaning and purpose. Our journey began with a question about what intelligence is. We end by realizing that perhaps the more important question is, what kind of intelligence do we choose to cultivate and express in the world? This brings us to our final, concluding reflection, a synthesis of all that we have explored. Number 50. Final reflection. Intelligence is not what you know, it's what you notice. We began this journey hours ago with a simple yet impossibly complex question. What is intelligence? We chased its definition through the labyrinth of the human mind, into the uncanny mirror of AI, across the diverse minds of nature, and out into the silent, thinking cosmos. We returned to the wisdom of our own bodies, the insights in our hearts, and the stillness of our awareness. And now, at the end of this long, winding path, we arrive at a place of quiet simplicity. We can finally let go of the need to define intelligence as a thing we possess, and instead embrace it as a way of being. Intelligence is not what you know, it's what you notice. Consider the vast spectrum we have explored. The intelligence of the scientist, lies in their ability to notice a subtle anomaly in the data, a pattern that everyone else has overlooked. The intelligence of the artist lies in their ability to notice a particular quality of light, a hidden emotion in a human face, a new relationship between colors or sounds. The intelligence of the therapist lies in their ability to notice the slight hesitation in a voice, the unspoken story behind the words. The intelligence of the mystic lies in their ability to notice the silent, spacious awareness that exists behind the noise of the mind. The intelligence of the gardener lies in noticing the faint wilting of a leaf. The intelligence of the parent lies in noticing the unspoken need of a child. The intelligence of a compassionate heart lies in noticing the suffering of another and feeling the call to respond. All forms of intelligence, at their core, are forms of attention. They are the quality of our awareness as it meets the world. When our attention is narrow, scattered, and clouded by judgment, our world is small and our intelligence is limited. We see only our own projections, our own fears, our own ingrained patterns. We live in a world of labels, not realities. But when our attention is open, curious, and present, our world expands. We begin to see the connections we missed before. We notice the beauty in the mundane. We perceive the deeper currents flowing beneath the surface of things. We are no longer just thinking about the world. We are in a living relationship with it. This is the final, liberating truth. Intelligence is not a fixed quantity to be measured and ranked. It is a capacity to be cultivated. It is the ongoing practice of paying attention. It is the choice, in any given moment, to be truly present. It is what you notice about the world outside you and what you notice about the world within you. It is noticing the gentle rhythm of your own breath, right now. Noticing the feeling of the air on your skin. Noticing the quiet stillness that holds all sound. This is where the journey ends and where it truly begins, in the simple, profound, and endlessly intelligent act of noticing.